The oldest silence holds the loudest truths. For centuries, sages and seekers have understood that what is spoken is merely the foam on the ocean's surface. The real currents, the vast and powerful truths, move in the depths, in the quiet. We have been taught to debate, to reply, to analyze the words, but we have forgotten how to listen to the ocean itself. We have forgotten that the most profound communication happens without a sound. Within you, right now, exists a capacity, a switch. It is not a skill to be learned, but a state of consciousness to be entered. We can call it the listening switch. It is the sacred mechanism that allows you to turn down the volume on the chattering, analyzing mind and turn up the reception of the soul. It is the choice to stop hearing only the words and to start perceiving the truth from which they arise. What if you could hear the fear hiding behind the anger in a loved one's voice, the unspoken plea for acceptance behind the bravado, the deep well of hope that lies just beneath a hesitant sigh? What if you could listen not just with your ears, but with the full resonance of your being, feeling the truth before a single word confirms it? This is not a fantasy, it is your birthright. This is not a lesson. It is not a collection of techniques to be memorized. It is an awakening, a guided journey to find and to flip, a switch that has always been a part of your design, buried beneath the noise of a world that screams for your attention. It is an invitation to come home to a deeper way of knowing, a more authentic way of connecting with others, and most importantly, with yourself. Together, we will explore the spaces between the words. We will find the meaning in the pauses, the truth in the energy that fills a room, the symphonies that play in the architecture of silence. We will learn to listen to what is not being said, because that is where everything important resides. Your journey into the unspoken universe begins now. Before you can truly hear the whispers of the universe or the unspoken heart of another, you must first attend to the noise in the room. And the room is your own mind. For most of us, this inner space is not a quiet sanctuary. It is a storm, a relentless, chaotic, and utterly exhausting cacophony that begins the moment we wake and often follows us into our dreams. This is the first obstacle. It is the great wall that stands between you and the world of deep, intuitive listening. You cannot hear what is outside of you until you can learn to quiet the shouting within you. Imagine your mind as a vast, ancient marketplace, bustling from before dawn until long after dusk. It is filled with countless stalls and vendors, each one screaming for your attention, each one desperate to sell you their wares. The air is thick with the smells of 1,000 different spices, the sounds of 100 different languages, the frantic energy of commerce and survival. This is the state of the untrained mind. It is a place of constant transaction, of endless noise. You have lived in this marketplace for so long, you have likely forgotten that a world exists outside its walls. The noise has become your normal. Let us walk through this market together and look closely at the vendors who command your attention. See there, in the shadowed alley, is the vendor of past regrets. He doesn't shout, he whispers. He holds up tarnished trinkets from your history, moments of embarrassment, words you wish you could take back, choices that led to pain. He sells you the same story over and over. If only you had done this differently. If only you had been better. And you buy it every time. You take the heavy coin of guilt from your pocket and purchase another moment of self-recrimination, another journey into a past that cannot be changed. Just across the main thoroughfare, under a brightly colored but tattered awning, is the vendor of future anxieties. Her stall is piled high with hypothetical maps, each one leading to a different disaster. She is loud, her voice sharp with urgency. What if you fail? She cries, thrusting one map into your hands. What if they leave you? What if you get sick? What if you run out of money? She sells possibilities, but only the most terrifying ones. She demands your attention, convincing you that if you don't prepare for every single worst-case scenario, you will be destroyed. And so you stand there, paralyzed, tracing paths to calamities that have not happened and likely never will, spending the precious energy of your present moment on the fear of a phantom future. Look up. On that high platform in the center sits the vendor of judgment. He is perhaps the most powerful of all. He holds a gavel in one hand and a pointing finger on the other. He shouts his verdicts for all to hear. He sells you judgments about others. Look at what she's wearing. Listen to how ignorant he sounds. He creates a sense of separation, of superiority that feels momentarily good, like a strong drink. But his most profitable business is selling you judgments about yourself. You are not smart enough. You are not working hard enough. You are not worthy. He wraps these judgments in the language of self-improvement, so you believe they are for your own good. But they are poison. They are the bricks that build the prison of your own smallness. And then there is the ever-present, ever-busy vendor of constant planning. His stall is a chaotic mess of calendars, to-do lists and clocks, all ticking at different speeds. He doesn't sell fear or regret. He sells the illusion of control. You must optimize your morning, he insists. You have 6 emails to answer, a call to make, groceries to buy, and then you must plan for tomorrow, for next week, for next year. He sells you a future so packed with obligations that there is no room left for life itself. He convinces you that your value lies not in your being, but in your doing. To stop, to simply be present, feels like a catastrophic failure in his world. The owner of this entire marketplace, the one who collects rent from all these vendors, is the ego. Its stall is in the very center, adorned with mirrors and trophies. It sells one product, and one product only: your story. The story of you. The story of your hurts, your triumphs, your identity. It is the master narrator, weaving everything that happens into the grand epic of me. This is why the noise is so compelling. It's all about you. Now, stand in the center of this chaotic marketplace of your mind. Feel the pull from a dozen different directions. Hear the competing voices. This is the inner state from which we attempt to listen to others. How can you possibly hear the subtle truth in your child's voice when the vendor of future anxieties is screaming in your ear about tomorrow's deadline? How can you feel the reality of a friend's unspoken sadness when the vendor of past regrets is replaying an old, bitter argument on an endless loop? How can you receive the wisdom of the universe when the vendor of judgment is shouting that you are not good enough to receive it? You cannot. When the mind is in this state, it is a closed system. It is a radio station stuck on transmit, perpetually broadcasting its own internal drama. It has no capacity to receive. To listen, truly listen, requires an open channel. It requires a quiet space. It demands that you stop being a frantic customer in your own mental marketplace. So what is the solution? Do you try to fight the vendors? Do you attempt to burn down their stalls? To fight the noise is to create more noise. To argue with the vendor of anxiety is to become more anxious. To battle the vendor of judgment is to become more judgmental. The struggle itself is just another product sold in the market. The first, most crucial act in flipping the listening switch is not to silence the market. It is to stop being a customer. It is to change your role entirely. You must realize that you are not the vendors. You are not even the frantic shopper, rushing from stall to stall. You are the awareness that is watching the entire scene unfold. The practice begins here. It begins with you taking a single step back. You find a quiet archway, just at the edge of the market square. And from there, you simply watch. You do not engage. You do not buy. The vendor of past regrets whispers his sad stories, and you notice him. You hear his call. You acknowledge his presence like a neutral observer. You see him, but you do not walk to his stall. You do not purchase his tarnished goods. You let his voice fade without following it. The vendor of future anxieties shouts her warnings, and you notice the tension it creates in your body. You observe it, you feel it, and you let it be, without accepting the map of disaster she offers. You let her voice become just another sound in the vast tapestry of the market. This is the beginning of freedom. You are no longer a slave to every thought, every impulse, every fear that arises. You are the calm, silent witness. You are the sky, and the thoughts are merely clouds passing through. You do not have to chase them. You do not have to fight them. Your only task is to notice their passing. This is not a passive act. It is an act of immense power. It is the reclamation of your attention. For years, your attention has been hijacked by these inner merchants. Now, you are taking it back. With each thought that you notice without buying, you reclaim a piece of your own consciousness. You are no longer lost in the noise. You are the one who is aware of the noise. And in that simple shift, everything changes. This is the foundation upon which all true listening is built. You cannot skip this step. You cannot build a house of deep perception on a foundation of mental chaos. So the journey begins here, in the noisy, crowded marketplace of your own mind. It begins with the simple, revolutionary act of becoming the silent observer. As you practice this, as you learn to walk through your inner world without being hooked by every vendor's call, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to notice the spaces between the stalls, the brief moments of quiet between the shouts. You begin to discover that this silence is not empty. It is not a void. It is a presence. It has a quality, a texture, a value all its own. This is the currency of the wise, the realm of the soul. This is the silence we will explore next. We have been conditioned to fear silence. In a world that worships noise, productivity, and constant communication, silence is seen as a void, a failure, an emptiness that must be filled at all costs. In conversation, it is awkward. In our schedules, it is wasted time. Alone in a room, it can feel like a confrontation with a ghost. We reach for our phones, turn on the television, start a meaningless task, anything to avoid the vast, quiet expanse. We have come to believe that value lies only in what is spoken, what is done, what is heard. But this is a profound misunderstanding, a great illusion that keeps us trapped on the surface of life, forever interacting with the foam and never knowing the ocean. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of everything else. It is not a vacuum. It is the ultimate container. It is the currency of the universe, and we have been living like spiritual paupers, ignorant of the infinite wealth we are constantly avoiding. To truly understand this, we must shift our entire perception. Imagine that silence is the deep, dark, fertile soil of existence. It is rich, mysterious, and alive with potential. Words, thoughts, actions, all the events of your life, these are merely seeds. A seed is a beautiful thing, a packet of pure potential, but a seed thrown onto concrete, onto the hard, noisy, impenetrable surface of a mind that never stops, can do nothing. It will simply sit there, inert, or be swept away by the next distracting wind. For a seed to fulfill its purpose, it must be planted in the soil. It needs the quiet, the dark, the receptive stillness of the earth to break open, to send down roots, and to push up towards the light. This is the function of silence. It is the fertile ground where meaning takes root. A declaration of love, whispered into a moment of shared, profound quiet, can change a life. The same words shouted over the noise of a television are just sounds. A difficult truth, spoken into a space of receptive, non-judgmental silence, can begin a process of healing. The same truth delivered in the middle of a frantic argument only deepens the wound. The words are the same. The silence is what gives them power. It is the soil that allows them to grow. Furthermore, silence is not a monolithic, empty thing. It has a texture, it has a quality, it has a taste and a temperature. You have felt this. Think of the silence in a room just after a bitter argument. It is heavy, jagged, electric with unspoken resentment. It is a thick, suffocating blanket. Now, compare that to the silence of walking into an ancient forest at dawn. That silence is light, spacious, and humming with a life so deep it requires no sound. It is a silence that holds you, that cleanses you. Think of the comfortable silence shared between two old friends, a silence that is woven with years of understanding, love, and acceptance. It is a warm, soft silence. How can something that is supposedly empty have so many different qualities? It cannot. Silence is a field of energy, a presence that we can learn to read as clearly as any spoken language. When you begin to practice being the quiet observer in your inner marketplace, you are not creating a void. You are cultivating this fertile soil. You are tilling the ground of your own consciousness. And it is in this inner quiet that the most subtle and important seeds of information can finally land and take root. This is the realm of intuition. Intuition does not shout. It does not use logic or debate. It is a subtle whisper, a gentle nudge, a quiet knowing that arises from a place beyond the chattering mind. The reason most people do not trust their intuition is because they can barely hear it. It is a delicate radio signal jammed by the overwhelming static of their inner anxieties, plans, and judgments. By cultivating internal silence, you are clearing the static. You are cleaning the channel. You begin to hear the whispers of your deeper self, the guidance of the universe, the subtle truths that are constantly being broadcast to you. Let us revisit that most feared of social phenomena, the awkward silence in a conversation. We rush to fill it, babbling about the weather, telling a joke, asking a pointless question. We treat it like a hole that needs to be paved over immediately. But what if it is not a hole? What if it is a doorway? What if the awkwardness we feel is not the silence itself, but our own resistance to the intimacy it offers? A pause in conversation is a moment of truth. It is a space where the masks can drop. It is an invitation to go deeper, to move beyond the rehearsed script of social interaction and actually connect on a soul level. The next time you find yourself in such a pause, try a radical experiment. Do not fill it. Instead, enter it. Bring your awareness to the space between you and the other person. Feel the quality of the energy. Look at them, not with expectation, but with simple, open presence. In that shared stillness, you may hear what they have been trying to say all along. You may feel their fear, their hope, their true question. You may discover that this silence is not a void separating you, but a bridge of energy connecting you in the most profound way. It is a sacred pause, and within it lies the potential for real communication. Let us bring this into your direct experience, right now. Wherever you are, just for a moment, stop trying to understand these words and simply listen, not to me, but to the world around you. You might hear the hum of a machine, the distant sound of traffic, the rustle of leaves. Acknowledge these sounds. But now, shift your attention. Instead of focusing on the sounds themselves, listen for the silence that holds them. Can you hear it? Can you feel the quiet canvas upon which these sounds are painted? Notice the space between each sound. That is silence. Now, bring your attention inward. Listen beneath the rhythm of your own breathing. There is a stillness there. Listen beneath the beat of your own heart. There is a deeper quiet. This silence is not something you need to create. It is already here. It is your fundamental nature. It is the ground of your being. You have simply been too distracted by the noise on the surface to notice it. This silence is the source code of reality. Before the Big Bang, scientists and mystics alike would agree there was a state of silent, infinite potential. Before a symphony, there is the silence of the concert hall. Before a thought appears in your mind, there is a moment of pure, silent awareness. Everything that is manifest, everything we can see and touch and name, arises from this womb of silence, and ultimately, everything returns to it. To connect with silence is to connect with the source of all creation. It is to come home. If this silence is so powerful, so rich, so full of wisdom and peace, why do we flee from it? Why do we fill every waking moment with noise and distraction? The answer lies with the master of the marketplace we spoke of earlier. It lies with the great interrupter who fears nothing more than being made irrelevant. The part of you that defines itself by speaking, by doing, by planning, by judging, by being seen and heard. In the vast, fertile, and impersonal field of silence, the ego fears it will dissolve. It is terrified of the quiet, for in the quiet, its stories lose their power. And so, to ensure its own survival, it creates an endless, distracting, and self-centered monologue. It is this voice we must now turn to face. Let us now examine the great resistor to peace, the ego's monologue, and learn to listen beyond its persistent noise. Let us speak of the one who fears silence the most, the one who rushes to fill every pause, who despises the fertile soil of quiet and seeks only to plant the seeds of its own voice. We have given it many names, but for our journey, we will call it the ego. It is crucial that you do not see the ego as an enemy to be vanquished. It is not some dark invader or a monster in your mind. The ego is, in its purest form, the mechanism of self. It is the voice that says, I. It is the architect of the identity you have built, the curator of your personal story. It was necessary for your survival, for navigating the world, for distinguishing yourself from the environment. It gave you a name, a history, a sense of continuity. But for most of us, this helpful servant has become a tyrannical master. Its voice, once a useful tool, has become a relentless, unceasing monologue. And this monologue is the greatest interrupter of true listening. Imagine the ego as a brilliant, charismatic, but deeply insecure actor on the stage of your mind. This actor has been playing the lead role in the grand drama titled My Life for as long as you can remember. He knows all the lines, all the motivations, all the past grievances and future ambitions of his character. His greatest fear is an empty stage or a silent audience. His terror is the moment the curtain falls and he is no longer the center of attention. And so, to prevent this, he never ever stops performing. He improvises, he rereads old scripts, he plans future scenes, he critiques the other actors, but he never ever goes quiet. Now, place yourself in a conversation with another person. As they begin to speak, watch this actor inside your mind spring into action. The person before you is sharing something from their heart, something vulnerable and real, but the actor is not listening. He cannot. He is too busy with his own performance. His first and most common tactic is the rehearsal. Even as the first few words leave the other person's lips, the actor in your mind is already backstage, frantically rehearsing his next lines. He hears the word struggle, and immediately he begins crafting his own, more dramatic story of struggle. He hears a mention of a success, and he polishes his own trophy, preparing a story to top it. He is not receiving their communication. He is using their words as mere cues for his own next performance. His mind is a flurry of activity. When she's done, I'll say this. Ooh, that reminds me of the time I need to remember to make that point. The channel for listening is completely jammed by the transmission of his own pending broadcast. His second tactic is the me filter. Every single piece of information that enters your ears, every word, every nuance, must first pass through a single, narrow gate. The gate of, what does this mean for me? The ego listens selfishly, or not at all. A friend's story of joy is immediately filtered for potential jealousy or for how it reflects on your own success. A partner's expression of sadness is instantly processed for how it will inconvenience you or what it implies about your role in their unhappiness. A piece of neutral information is scanned for its usefulness, for how it can be weaponized in a future argument or used to make you appear smarter. If the information does not directly relate to the ego's story, to its survival, its status, or its comfort, it is deemed irrelevant and discarded like junk mail. The ego is not interested in the other person's reality. It is only interested in how their reality affects its own. His third tactic is that of the instant label maker. The ego is a master of categorization because labeling is a shortcut that makes deep listening unnecessary. Before a sentence is even finished, the actor slaps a sticker on it. I agree. I disagree. That's smart. That's foolish. Right. Wrong. Once the label is applied, the inquiry stops. The need to listen further, to understand the nuance, the feeling, the deeper truth behind the words, completely evaporates. Why explore the complexities of their perspective when you have already neatly filed it away in a box? This labeling is a defense mechanism against the unsettling possibility that your own worldview might be incomplete, that you might actually have to change your mind. It is easier to label than to listen, and perhaps most primitively, there is the tactic of the breath hunter. Feel it in your body now, the memory of it. You are in a conversation, and you have something you are desperate to say. The actor is on the edge of the stage, ready to leap. You can feel the coiled energy in your chest, the tension in your jaw. You are not listening to the meaning of their words anymore. You are listening for a sound. You are hunting for the half-second pause, the tiny inhalation of breath that signals your turn. And the moment you hear it, you pounce. You jump in, often cutting them off, to finally allow the pressure in your own mind to be released. The entire exchange is not a sharing of understanding, but a battle for airtime. Why? Why this constant, desperate performance? The answer is fear. The actor performs because he is terrified that if he stops, he will disappear. The ego is built on the sand of thought and memory. It has no inherent, solid reality. It exists only by constantly reaffirming its own existence. Its frantic monologue is a desperate mantra. I think, therefore I am. I speak, therefore I am important. I am heard, therefore I exist. Silence is a threat because in the vast, open space of quiet, the ego can find no reflection of itself. It feels the terror of dissolution, of non-existence. Its noise is a shield against the profound and sometimes frightening peace of pure being. Is it any wonder we feel so disconnected, so lonely, even when surrounded by people? We are living inside the echo chambers of our own monologues. We crave to be truly seen and heard, yet our own inner actor is incapable of offering that gift to anyone else. The monologue builds a wall, brick by brick, around your heart. True connection requires vulnerability, an openness to receive, a willingness to be changed by what you hear. The ego permits none of this. It seeks only to reinforce what it already believes, to protect its own fragile structure at all costs. So what can be done? You cannot kill the actor. To declare war on your ego is just another, more dramatic performance by the ego itself. The ego loves a good battle, especially one where it gets to be both the hero and the villain. The path is not through war, but through wisdom. The practice is not to silence the actor, but to simply and gently withdraw your attention. You can stop being his captivated audience. The practice is this: the next time you are listening to someone, be aware of the stage in your mind. As the other person speaks, watch for the actor to emerge, and he will. You will feel the urge to formulate a reply, to judge, to relate it back to yourself. You will feel the hunt for the breath begin. In that moment of noticing, you have found your freedom. Do not fight it. Simply acknowledge it without judgment. Say to yourself silently, there is the actor rehearsing his lines. I see him, or there is the ego wanting to make this about me. In that moment of gentle, non-judgmental acknowledgement, you create a space. You have shifted from being the actor to being the audience that is aware of the actor. And then, with conscious, gentle intention, you turn your attention back to the face of the person in front of you, back to the sound of their voice, back to the feeling in the room. You bring your attention back to listening. The actor will try to grab the spotlight again, perhaps seconds later, and you will repeat the process, gently, patiently, 1,000 times if necessary. You are not pushing the ego away. You are simply choosing to place your attention elsewhere. You are choosing to water the flower of listening rather than the weed of the monologue. As you practice withdrawing your attention from the ego's noisy stage, a new theater begins to open up within you, a quieter, more ancient one. This theater does not use words, arguments, or stories. Its language is sensation. Its truth is felt, not thought. It is the theater of the body. To enter it, we must learn a new way of listening, not with the mind that argues, but with the body that knows. This living instrument, this tuning fork for truth that lies dormant beneath the actor's ceaseless performance, is where our journey takes us next. For so long on this journey, we have spoken of the mind. We have explored its noisy marketplace and stood before the stage of its insecure actor, the ego. We have placed our faith and our focus on the world of thought, believing it to be the seat of our intelligence. In doing so, we have overlooked the wisest sage in our own kingdom, the one who has been patiently waiting to be heard all along. We have treated the body as a servant, a vessel to be fueled, rested, and occasionally repaired, a vehicle to carry our head from one important meeting to another. But what if the body is not just the vehicle, but the compass? What if its feelings are not random distractions, but precise, vital data from the universe? What if your body is the most honest listener you will ever know? To understand this, we must adopt a new metaphor. Let go of the image of the body as a machine. Instead, imagine your body as a perfectly crafted musical instrument, something akin to a cello or a harp, made of living, breathing consciousness. Or even more simply, imagine it as a tuning fork. A tuning fork is designed for one purpose: to resonate. When struck, it vibrates at a pure, specific frequency. When another sound source nearby matches that frequency, the tuning fork will begin to hum on its own, vibrating in sympathetic resonance. It doesn't need to think or analyze. Its response is instantaneous, physical, and unfailingly honest. Your body is this tuning fork. Its natural resonant frequency is truth. It is designed to vibrate in harmony with authenticity, with love, with safety, with what is real. In the presence of these things, your body relaxes, opens, and hums with a quiet sense of rightness. Conversely, in the presence of falsehood, of danger, of manipulation, of someone's unspoken pain, the tuning fork goes silent, or it feels a jarring dissonance. It tightens, it recoils, it contracts. This is not a poetic idea. It is a physiological reality. Your nervous system is an infinitely sophisticated instrument of perception, constantly picking up on subtle cues from the environment and translating them into physical sensation. You already know this language, though you have likely been conditioned to dismiss it as irrational or meaningless. Think back. Remember that gut feeling you had about a person or a situation, that deep, primal knowing in your stomach that told you something was wrong, even when everything on the surface looked right. Recall the sudden chills or goosebumps that ran up your spine when you heard a profound, undeniable truth spoken aloud, as if your very cells were standing up to salute it. Remember the feeling of a heavy heart, a literal, physical weight in your chest in the presence of grief, either your own or another's, or the lump in your throat, that appears when you or someone else is holding back important words. These are not fictions, they are not random symptoms, they are data points. They are the clear, unfiltered reports from the most reliable intelligence agent you have. This is somatic listening, the art of hearing the information your body is giving you. The fundamental language of the body is beautifully simple. It opens or it closes. That is its primary binary signal. When you are in the presence of someone who is genuine, who is speaking from an authentic place, your body will subtly open. Your shoulders might relax without you noticing. The muscles in your stomach may soften. You might find yourself unconsciously leaning forward. Your breathing may deepen. This is the resonance of truth. Your body feels safe, and it opens like a flower to receive the sun. Conversely, when you are interacting with someone who is being deceptive, whose words do not match their intention, or who harbors hidden anger or fear, your body will close. It will contract. The muscles in your jaw might clench. A subtle tension may appear in your neck. Your stomach might tighten into a knot. You may feel a subconscious urge to cross your arms or take a step back. This is dissonance. Your tuning fork is sensing a frequency that is jarring and disharmonious with your own. It is your oldest, most primal intelligence system telling you, pay attention. Something here is not as it seems. Beyond this simple binary of opening and closing, there is a rich spectrum of sensation. Truth can feel like a gentle warmth spreading through your chest. A deep, loving connection can make you feel grounded and solid, as if your feet have grown roots into the earth. Listening to someone who is agitated and anxious can make your own body feel buzzy and unsettled, as if you've had too much caffeine. Being in the presence of a deep, calm wisdom in another person can bring a profound sense of stillness to your own form. Your body is a mirror. It reflects the energetic weather patterns around it. You just need to learn how to read your own reflection. But why is the body so reliable? Why should we trust a gut feeling over the complex analysis of our brilliant mind? Because of one simple, crucial fact. Your body lives only in the present moment. Your mind is a time traveler. It is constantly leaping into the future to worry and plan, or wandering back into the past to regret and relive. It is a masterful storyteller, weaving elaborate narratives and interpretations. Your body, however, knows only one time. Now. It has no capacity for yesterday or tomorrow. It can only report on the energetic reality of this precise, singular moment. It cannot be tricked by a story because it does not understand stories. It only understands the raw, unfiltered frequency of what is happening right now. It cannot lie. Let us practice reading this magnificent instrument together, right now. Wherever you are, gently bring your awareness inward. Let go of the meaning of these words and instead, feel their vessel. Start with your feet. Can you feel the points of contact with the floor or the earth? Is there warmth, pressure, tingling? Simply notice, without judgment. This is the beginning of listening. Now, bring your awareness up into your legs, your hips. Is there tightness or is there ease? Travel up into your stomach and your solar plexus. This is a major center of intuitive feeling. Is it soft and relaxed, or is it tight and knotted? Be honest with yourself. There is no right way to feel. There is only what is. Bring your attention now into your chest, the space around your heart. Does it feel open and spacious, or does it feel guarded and constricted? Notice the rhythm of your breath as it enters and leaves this space. Finally, bring your awareness to your throat, your jaw, your face. Is there tension around your mouth or your eyes? This entire scan takes only a minute, but it is a profound act of self-connection. This is you, picking up your instrument and getting to know its current state. Now, you can take this practice into the world. The next time you are in a conversation, listen with two sets of ears. Your physical ears will hear the words, but dedicate a small portion of your awareness perhaps just 10%, to your body's ear. As the other person speaks, notice your instrument. Does your own body lean in, or does it subtly pull back? Does a warmth spread in your chest, or does a knot form in your stomach? Do you feel expansive and calm, or do you feel a strange sense of agitation? The body's response is the footnote to their words, and very often, the footnote contains the real story. It is the unspoken truth, vibrating from their being directly into yours. This vibration you feel, this humming of the tuning fork, is not happening in a vacuum. Your body is responding to an invisible but palpable field, the energetic signature that every person and every situation broadcasts. Your body is the receiver for this broadcast. To become true listeners, we must now move from feeling the effect, the resonance in our body to perceiving the cause. We must learn to listen directly to the language of energy itself. We have arrived at the source. We have followed the path from the noisy marketplace of the mind, through the fertile fields of silence, and into the resonant chamber of the body. We have discovered that our body is a living tuning fork, an instrument that hums with truth and contracts from dissonance. But we must now ask the essential question: what is it responding to? A tuning fork does not vibrate in a vacuum. It resonates with an external frequency. Your body is no different. It is responding to the most fundamental and most honest language in the universe. It is the language of energy. Think of every living being, yourself included, as a powerful broadcasting tower. This tower is constantly, ceaselessly, emitting a signal into the field of existence. The words we choose to speak, the sentences we form, are like the official, scheduled, pre-approved press release issued from the tower's management office. It is carefully crafted, edited by the ego, and designed to present a specific, controlled image to the world. But the tower itself, its steel structure, its deep foundations, its powerful core, is simultaneously emitting a much stronger, more primal, and utterly unfiltered signal. This is the broadcast of your being. This signal is composed of the raw data of your inner state. It is the pure frequency of your unspoken emotions, your deepest intentions, your hidden fears, and your most sacred hopes. It is a broadcast that cannot be faked. You can say the words, "I am fine," but you cannot stop the tower from broadcasting the frequency of grief. You can say, "I am not angry," but you cannot silence the sharp, jagged broadcast of rage. You can say, "I am happy for you," but you cannot conceal the discordant hum of envy. This energetic broadcast is the truth of your inner world made manifest, and it travels light years faster and with infinitely more impact than the clumsy vehicles of our words. You have been speaking and reading this language your entire life, even if you did not have a name for it. Have you ever walked into a room just after two people have had a terrible argument? The room is silent, yet you can feel the tension, thick and suffocating, like a change in atmospheric pressure. What you are feeling is the residual energy of the conflict, still hanging in the air. That is energetic listening. Have you ever spent time with someone who is genuinely, uncomplicatedly joyful, and found that afterward, your own mood has lifted, your own heart feels lighter, for no logical reason? You were basking in the high-frequency broadcast of their joy. Conversely, have you ever had a short conversation with someone deeply pessimistic or bitter and walked away feeling inexplicably drained, tired, as if your own life force has been siphoned off? You were exposed to a low-frequency broadcast, and your own energy field was affected. This is not magic or superstition, it is the physics of consciousness. We are not solid, isolated billiard balls bouncing off one another. We are fields of vibrating energy, constantly intermingling, influencing, and informing each other. Words are often just the foam on the surface of this deep, energetic ocean of exchange. The ego, the master of the press release, uses words as its primary tool of concealment. It constructs an elaborate facade, a carefully curated personality with the bricks and mortar of language. The truly deep listener, the one who has activated the listening switch, learns to trust the broadcast over the words every single time. They hear the polite words, "It was no trouble at all," but they feel the powerful broadcast of resentment and exhaustion, and they know the truth. They hear the confident words of a salesman, but they feel the underlying frequency of desperation and insincerity, and they know the truth. This is a form of perception that cannot be deceived. So how do you learn to consciously tune into this language? It is not about trying to see auras in psychedelic colors. For most, it is a non-visual sense, a form of direct feeling, knowing. The process involves the steps we have already taken. First, you must quiet your own inner marketplace. You cannot hear another's subtle broadcast if your own tower is deafened by the noise of its own internal monologue. Second, you must attune to your own instrument, your body. You must be familiar with your own tuning fork's state of rest, so you can clearly feel when it begins to resonate with an outside source. Once your inner world is relatively quiet and you are grounded in your body, the final step is a gentle extension of your awareness. It is not an aggressive act of probing or prying. Imagine your awareness not as a focused laser beam, but as a soft, permeable field that extends a few feet around your body, like a gentle fog. As another person enters this field, simply notice the shift in the weather. That is all. Do not try to analyze it, just feel. Is their energy calm or turbulent? Is it warm or cool? Does it feel expansive or contracted, sharp or soft? You are not trying to read their mind. You are simply sensing the quality of their being. You are feeling the music behind their words. In this practice, it is vital to learn the distinction between being a receiver and being a sponge. This is perhaps the most important lesson for anyone who is naturally sensitive. A radio receiver is a sophisticated instrument. It can tune into a station broadcasting a sad song, decode the information, recognize it as sadness, and even be moved by it. But the radio itself does not become sad. It does not absorb the song and carry it around all day. A sponge, however, soaks up whatever liquid it is placed in, becomes heavy with it, and carries it until it is squeezed out. Many of us have been living as energetic sponges, taking on the anger, fear, and pain of others, believing this is what it means to be empathetic. This leads to burnout, exhaustion, and a loss of self. The true art of energetic listening is to become the receiver. You perceive the energy, you acknowledge it, you understand it. You might even visualize it as a color or a frequency that flows towards you, passes through the open field of your awareness, and continues on its way. You can feel it without having to hold it. You can understand it without having to become it. This allows you to maintain your own center, your own energy, while still being profoundly connected and empathetic. This practice has a profound side effect. As you become more adept at sensing the broadcasts of others, you become exquisitely aware of your own. You start to notice when your own words are out of alignment with your energy. You will say, "I'm fine," and simultaneously feel the lie in your own energy field. You will begin to crave integrity, a state where your inner frequency and your outer expression are one and the same. This is the path to personal power and unshakable authenticity. You stop broadcasting mixed signals, and the world, in turn, begins to respond to you with a newfound clarity. So now you can feel it, the raw, unfiltered broadcast of another soul, their pain, their joy, their truth. This is a sacred perception. What then is the appropriate response? To point it out would be an act of aggression from your ego. To analyze it for them is to assume superiority. To try and fix it is to disrespect their journey. The highest, most powerful, and most healing response is a profound act of sacred stillness. It is the practice of simply being present with their energy and offering it a safe, non-judgmental harbor in your own awareness. This is the divine art of holding space, and it is the next crucial step on our journey together. You have learned to quiet the mind's marketplace. You have discovered the fertile currency of silence. You have witnessed the ego's frantic monologue, and you have felt the truth resonating in the instrument of your body. You have even begun to perceive the invisible language of energy, the unfiltered broadcast of another soul. Now you stand at a threshold of profound responsibility and power. You can perceive the unspoken truth of another being, their pain, their fear, their joy, their confusion. The question that defines your spiritual maturity, the question that determines whether you will be a healer or simply another source of noise, is this: what do you do now? The untrained, conditioned self, driven by the insecure ego, immediately leaps into action. It has a powerful, almost irresistible urge to do something. Faced with the raw energy of another's sadness, its first impulse is to fix it. It offers unsolicited advice. It formulates solutions. It charts a path out of their darkness. Faced with another's anger, it recoils, defends, or tries to placate. Faced with another's confusion, it rushes to provide answers and clarity, often a clarity they haven't earned and aren't ready for. This impulse to do, to fix, to solve, to advise, while often cloaked in the noble disguise of helpfulness, is rarely about the other person. It is about us. It is about our own discomfort. The raw, unfiltered energy of another's pain makes us feel helpless, awkward, and anxious. Their chaos threatens our own fragile sense of order. And so, we try to fix them in order to soothe ourselves. We try to solve their problem to alleviate our own feeling of powerlessness. It is one of the ego's most clever tricks, appearing compassionate while actually serving its own need for comfort and control. The path of deep listening, the sacred path, requires a radical departure from this impulse. It asks you not to do, but to be. It asks you not to fix, but to witness. It asks you to perform the single most powerful and healing act one human being can offer another: to hold space. To understand what this means, let go of all images of action and effort. Instead, imagine yourself as a sacred vessel. See in your mind's eye a beautifully crafted ceramic bowl. It is ancient, simple, and profound. Notice its qualities. First, it is empty. It is not filled with its own ideas, its own opinions, its own stories. It has let go of its own agenda. To truly hold space for another, you must first be willing to empty yourself. You must set down your need to be right, your desire to be seen as wise, your clever anecdotes, your brilliant solutions. You must become a receptive emptiness. Second, the vessel is strong. It is sturdy. It has been fired in the kiln of presence and self-awareness. It does not crack or tremble when something heavy is placed within it. It can hold the searing heat of someone's rage or the icy weight of their despair without breaking. This strength comes from being grounded in your own being. You are the deep, silent mountain, and their emotion is simply the weather passing over you. You know that their storm cannot uproot you, so you are not afraid of their clouds or their lightning. You can offer them your unwavering stillness. Third, the vessel is open. It has no lid. It does not discriminate. It receives whatever is offered without condition or judgment. A tear is as welcome as a pearl. A tangled knot of confusion is as welcome as a clear, shining insight. The vessel does not say, "I will only accept your joy, not your sorrow." It does not say, "Your anger is too much for me." It simply says, "By its very nature, all of you is welcome here." This unconditional acceptance is the essence of love. Finally, the vessel is silent. It does not talk back. It does not offer commentary on what it holds. Its presence, its strength, its emptiness, Its openness, this is its service. Its silence is its song of acceptance. To hold space is to become this sacred, silent, open, and sturdy vessel for the truth of another. To make this clearer, it is vital to understand what holding space is not. It is a not-to-do list for the soul. Firstly, holding space is not problem-solving. You are not their savior or their consultant. The moment you begin to brainstorm solutions, you have subtly shifted the dynamic. You have positioned yourself as the expert and them as the one who is deficient. You are implicitly saying, I, from my vantage point, can see the way out of your mess better than you can. This is profoundly disempowering. Their journey, with all its twists and wrong turns, is their sacred curriculum. Their problems are the very challenges their soul needs to evolve. To solve the problem for them is to steal their curriculum, to rob them of their own potential for discovery and strength. Your job is not to guide them out of the labyrinth. It is to stand with a lamp at the entrance, trusting that they have the capacity to find their own way. Secondly, holding space is not sympathizing. The voice of sympathy often sounds like, "Oh, you poor thing. That's terrible. I feel so sorry for you." While it sounds kind, sympathy often creates a subtle hierarchy. It is the voice of someone looking down from a position of strength upon someone they perceive as weak and broken. It creates a dynamic of the victim and the rescuer. Holding space, in contrast, is an act of seeing the other person as completely whole, powerful, and resourceful, even when they are in immense pain and have forgotten their own strength. It is an act of communion between two equals. You are not feeling sorry for them, you are feeling the truth with them from a place of shared humanity. Third, and this is where the ego is most tempted, holding space is not comparing. The instant you utter the words, "I know just how you feel," that reminds me of the time when you have dropped the sacred vessel. You have shattered it on the floor, and now you are asking them to look at your pieces instead. You have taken the spotlight of attention, which was a healing beam shining on them, and you have turned it back onto yourself. You may think you are creating connection by showing that you have had a similar experience, but what you are actually doing is leaving them utterly alone in their own unique reality, forcing them now to become the listener to your story. The most compassionate response is to understand that you can never know exactly how they feel. Their experience is uniquely their own. Your role is simply to honor it, not to co-opt it. Furthermore, holding space is not about offering platitudes or premature cheerleading. It is not your job to rush them to the silver lining. Phrases like, "Look on the bright side," "Everything happens for a reason," "This will make you stronger," or "Don't worry, you'll get over it," while perhaps intended to be comforting, are forms of energetic violence. They are a dismissal of the person's present moment reality. They invalidate their feelings. They say, in effect, "Your current feeling is wrong or unacceptable. You should be feeling something else." True compassion allows someone to be exactly where they are, to feel exactly what they feel, without any pressure to move on until they are ready. Finally, holding space is not about analyzing or diagnosing. You are not their therapist unless you actually are. To say, "Well, the reason you're feeling this is because of your childhood," or "That's a classic defense mechanism," is to retreat from the heart and into the cold corridors of the intellect. It turns a sacred feeling moment into a mental puzzle. This is another defense mechanism we use to avoid the raw power of emotion. When you analyze, you are no longer the vessel. You are the scientist, and they are the specimen under your microscope. This creates distance, not connection. So, if holding space is not any of these things, what is it? How do you practice this sacred art of active being? It begins, always, with you. The first step is to ground yourself. Before you can be a sturdy vessel for another, you must be anchored in your own reality. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Take a slow, deep breath and feel it move through your torso. Connect with the earth beneath you. You cannot be a mountain for someone else if you are a leaf blowing in the wind. This grounding is your anchor in the storm. The second step is to silently set your intention. It is a quiet prayer in your heart. You can use the ancient practice of metta, or loving kindness. As you prepare to listen, you silently offer them a blessing. May you be safe. May you be at peace. May you find your own wisdom. May you be free from suffering. This is not about you. It is a way of tuning your own energy field to the frequency of unconditional love and acceptance. It transforms your presence from a neutral space into a sacred, benevolent one. The third, and most central, practice is deep, silent listening. This is the culmination of everything we have explored. You focus your full, soft, unwavering attention on the other person. You listen with your ears to their words. You listen with your body, your tuning fork, to their feelings. You listen with your expanded awareness to their energy broadcast. You listen to the spaces between their words. Your attention is a soft, warm light that you shine upon them. You are not listening to respond, to judge, or to analyze. You are listening simply to understand, to witness. Throughout this process, your breath is your constant companion and tool. You breathe with the moment. As you listen, your breath remains steady, calm, and deep. Your calm nervous system acts as a powerful external regulator for their agitated one. Without a single word, your peaceful breathing sends a powerful message to their primal brain. You are safe. This space is safe. I am not overwhelmed by you. This co-regulation is a profound, non-verbal gift of peace. And finally, you must learn to trust the silence. When they finish speaking, when a pause falls, your conditioned mind will scream at you to fill it. Resist. This is the most crucial moment. Hold the vessel steady. Stay present. Look at them with soft, accepting eyes. This silence is not empty. It is pregnant with possibility. It is in this courageous silence that they are truly meeting themselves, perhaps for the first time. It is where insights bubble up from the deep. It is where held-back tears find the courage to fall. Your quiet, unwavering presence is what gives them permission to enter that deep inner space. You are guarding the silence for them. You are protecting their moment of inner communion. Why is this practice so transformative? Because to be truly seen, without judgment or agenda, is the deepest longing of the human soul. When a person's raw, messy, unspoken truth, their energy, their emotion, their story is met with the light of pure, loving awareness, something alchemical occurs. The parts of themselves they had deemed shameful, broken, or unacceptable are suddenly bathed in the light of your acceptance. And in that light, they can begin to accept themselves. You don't heal them. Your presence creates the sacred conditions in which they can access their own innate capacity for healing. Like sunlight on a dormant seed, your loving awareness awakens the wisdom that was already inside them. They didn't need your answers. They needed a sanctuary in which to find their own. In offering this gift, you are also healed. You learn humility, realizing you don't have all the answers. You learn patience. You learn the profound power of stillness. You learn to love unconditionally. You become a walking sanctuary, a source of peace in a noisy world. In this sacred space you have so courageously held, the need for constant talking fades away. The conversation breathes, and in those breaths, in the silences you protect, a new form of communication emerges. The pauses are no longer voids to be feared, but portals to be entered. They are filled with echoes, with meaning, with the truths that were too shy to reveal themselves in the noise. To listen even more deeply, we must now learn to decode the profound language of these intentional silences. The sacred vessel has been created. In the strength of your grounded presence, In the warmth of your unconditional acceptance, you have held space for another. And in that sanctuary, something remarkable has happened. The frantic need to speak, to fill every moment with noise, has subsided. The conversation has begun to breathe. It inhales and exhales, and in these moments of quiet respiration, a new language emerges. We have been trained our entire lives to listen to the words, the notes of the conversational melody. But we have been deaf to the silences, to the rests. And yet, any musician will tell you that the rests are where the music finds its emotion, its rhythm, its power. A relentless stream of notes is not music, it is an assault. It is the silence between the notes that creates the art. So too, in the art of human connection, the pauses are not an absence of communication, they are a different, more profound mode of it. We must now learn to listen to the echoes in these gaps. Think of a master's painting or a breathtaking photograph. A novice artist focuses only on the subject, the object they are trying to depict, but the master understands the profound importance of the space around the subject. This is known as negative space. It is the shape of the air between the branches of a tree, the empty expanse of sky above a mountain, the quiet space beside a human figure. This negative space is not empty. It is what gives the subject its form, its definition, its context. It creates balance, tension, and emotion. Without the careful consideration of negative space, the painting is flat, lifeless, and has no depth. The pauses in a conversation are the negative space of dialogue. They are not voids. They are potent, data-rich spaces that give shape, depth, and true meaning to the words they surround. A conversation without pauses is a one-dimensional wall of sound, a frantic, anxious monologue. A conversation that breathes, that allows for these pockets of stillness, becomes a three-dimensional sculpture of shared understanding. To become a master listener, you must stop fearing the negative space. You must learn to appreciate its form, to feel its texture, and to decode the silent, powerful story it tells. Like the different qualities of silence itself, not all pauses are created equal. They are a complex and nuanced language. To become fluent, we must learn to distinguish their different dialects. Let us create a field guide, a taxonomy of pauses, not as a rigid formula to be memorized, but as an invitation to awaken your own intuition. First, there is the pause of formulation. This is perhaps the most common and least emotional type of pause. You are speaking with someone, and they stop mid-sentence. You can almost feel the gears turning in their mind. They are searching for a specific word, trying to piece together a complex thought, or navigating the path of a story they haven't told before. The energy of this pause is cognitive. It is the quiet hum of a mind at work. The unskilled listener, made uncomfortable by the silence, will often jump in and try to finish the sentence for them. Are you trying to say, the word you're looking for is this, while seemingly helpful, is an interruption. It breaks their concentration and implies impatience. The role of the deep listener here is simply to wait. Your patient silence is a gift of support. It says, take your time. Your thoughts are worth waiting for. I am here. Next, and far more profound, is the pause of emotion. This is when a feeling arises that is too large, too tender, or too overwhelming to be contained in language. A person may be telling a story, and their voice suddenly halts. The silence that follows is not empty. It is thick with unspoken feeling. It is the heavy, dense stillness of grief welling up. It is the sharp, electric quiet that precedes an outburst of anger. It is the trembling, fragile silence that holds back a flood of tears. You may see a physical manifestation, a tightening of the jaw, a glance away, a hand rising to the throat. To listen to this pause is to listen directly to the heart. Your job is not to say, it's okay, don't cry. That is a dismissal. Your job is to become the sturdy vessel we spoke of, to hold the intensity of that silent, emotional broadcast. Your quiet, unwavering presence becomes the safe container that allows the feeling to simply be, whether it remains silent or finds its release in tears or a shaky breath. You are witnessing the moment the heart becomes too full for words. Then there is the beautiful pause of connection, which we can also call the resonant pause. This silence does not arise from difficulty, but from depth. It occurs after a profound truth has been spoken, either by them or by you. A moment of deep vulnerability has been shared, a core insight has been revealed, and a shared silence descends upon the conversation. This pause is not awkward, it is sacred. It is the sound of two souls simultaneously integrating a moment of genuine contact. The energy is peaceful, warm, and unifying. It is the conversation taking a deep, collective breath, allowing the truth to settle into the bones. Rushing to speak after a moment like this is a desecration. It is like turning on the harsh overhead lights in the middle of a beautiful candlelit ceremony. To honor this pause, you simply sit in it together. You breathe. You might share a soft, knowing glance. You are bathing together in the afterglow of a true moment. Conversely, there is the pause of resistance. This silence feels entirely different. It is the sound of a wall going up. It often occurs after you have asked a direct or probing question or touched upon a topic that is clearly sensitive. The person stops, but it is not the open, searching silence of formulation, nor the thick, feeling silence of emotion. This pause is guarded, tense, and calculating. The energy contracts. You can feel them retreating, choosing their next words not for truth, but for defense. They are constructing a careful answer, building a fortress. To the intuitive listener, this pause is a bright red flag. It signals, here lies a protected territory, here lies a wound. The unskilled listener might push harder, repeating the question, trying to break down the wall. But the wise listener recognizes the wall as a form of communication in itself. It is a non-verbal stop. You honor the boundary. You may soften your approach or gently change the subject, understanding that you have momentarily stepped on sacred but heavily guarded ground. Finally, there is the simple pause of exhaustion. In a long and emotionally taxing conversation, the energy naturally wanes. A pause may descend that is not full of feeling or thought, but simply of emptiness. The energy is low, heavy, and diffuse. It is a signal that the well is running dry. Recognizing this pause is an act of profound kindness and awareness. It is the non-verbal cue that it is time to rest, to close the conversation for now, or to shift to something lighter. To push past this pause is to demand more from someone who has nothing left to give. The compassionate listener hears the silence of exhaustion and responds with gentleness, offering an end or a respite. In all of these instances, your role as the listener is the same. You are the guardian of the gap. You must courageously protect the pause from your own and others' compulsion to fill it. When silence falls, your practice is to consciously turn your attention into the silence itself. Feel its texture, sense its temperature. What is the quality of this specific silence? By focusing on the pause, you give it legitimacy. You make it a valid and important part of the conversation. With practice, you can even learn to use silence as a gentle, powerful question. After someone shares something vulnerable or incomplete, you can simply remain silent, holding them in a soft, expectant gaze. Your continued, attentive silence acts as the kindest possible inquiry. It says, without words, or tell me more. More often than not, the other person will feel the safety of your silent invitation and go deeper, revealing a layer of truth they would not have reached if you had prodded them with a verbal question. As we become more fluent in this subtle, powerful language of pauses, we begin to realize they are not random events. They are signposts. They are doorways. Each pause, whether it is born of emotion, resistance, thought, or connection, points toward a deeper reality. It gives us a clue to the vast, submerged story that is unfolding beneath the surface of the spoken words. The words we are beginning to see are only the visible tip of the iceberg. The pauses are the moments where the light shifts, and we catch a breathtaking glimpse of the immense, hidden structure of their inner world. To continue our descent into the heart of true listening, we must now learn to perceive not just the clues from the pauses, but the entire hidden narrative they reveal. We have learned to guard the sacred pauses, those quiet portals into a deeper reality. We have felt the echoes of emotion and intention that reside within them. These pauses, we said, are signposts. But signposts to what? They point toward a vast, invisible architecture that underpins every human interaction. They point to the story. We do not live in reality. We live in the story we tell ourselves about reality. And to listen only to a person's words is to read the cover of a book and believe you know its entire contents. The true art of listening, the listening that heals and connects, is the ability to hear the story that is breathing just beneath the words. Think of the person before you as an immense iceberg. The words they speak, their actions, their opinions, the details of their day. This is the 10% of the iceberg that is visible above the churning surface of the water. We are trained to focus on this visible part, to analyze it, to debate it, to react to it. But the real power, the real mass, the force that dictates the iceberg's movement is the 90% that is submerged in the deep, dark water. This submerged part is the person's core story, their personal mythology, their unconscious operating system. It is composed of their deepest beliefs about themselves, about others, and about the world. And until you learn to sense the shape and movement of this submerged mass, you will forever be confused by the seemingly random movements of the tip. Let us switch metaphors to that of a great tree. The words a person uses are the leaves, rustling in the wind of the present moment. Today, the leaves might be about their frustrating boss. Tomorrow, they may be about their disobedient child. The day after, about the terrible traffic. The leaves change daily. To listen only to the leaves is to be perpetually distracted. But if you listen with depth, you begin to notice the branches that these leaves grow from. You notice a recurring theme. Perhaps all these complaints about the boss, the child, the traffic, grow from a common branch, the theme of feeling disrespected or ignored. This is a deeper level of listening, but the master listener goes deeper still. They ask, what is the trunk of this tree? What is the central narrative that supports all of these branches? Perhaps the central trunk is a story called, "The world is an unjust place, and no one ever sees my value." This is the core story. And where does this trunk get its life? From where does it draw its nourishment? It draws it from the hidden root system, buried deep in the soil of the past. And this root system is almost always a core wound. Perhaps the primary root, the taproot, is a wound that says, "I am not good enough." And so the entire tree, the invisible root of "I am not good enough," the trunk of the world is unjust. The branches of "I am constantly disrespected," and the daily leaves of "my boss," child. Traffic is terribly as a single, unified expression. To react to the leaf is to miss the entire point. To feel compassion for the root is to understand the whole tree. Your task as a deep listener is to learn to hear the root. This does not require a degree in psychology. It requires a quiet mind and an open heart. The stories are not that complicated, because at their core, human wounds are remarkably universal. Let us explore some of the most common core stories and learn to recognize their expression in everyday language. One of the most pervasive stories is, "I am not good enough." This is the wound of worthiness. When this is the root system, the tree grows in strange and often contradictory ways to compensate. It might manifest as a relentless overachiever, the person whose conversation is always peppered with their latest success, their promotion, their accomplishments. They are not just sharing news. They are presenting evidence for their worthiness, to you and to themselves. Every word is a silent plea. Is this enough? Do you see me as valuable now? It can also manifest as its opposite. The perfectionist who is terrified of starting anything for fear it won't be flawless, or the person who uses constant self-deprecating humor, beating everyone else to the punch of pointing out their own perceived flaws. When you listen to the braggart or the self-critic, listen beyond their words. Hear the quiet, trembling root beneath it all whispering, "Am I, in my essence, enough?" Another powerful core story is, "I am not safe." This is the wound of trust and security. For someone whose roots are in this story, the world is perceived as a fundamentally dangerous place. Their lives will be those of chronic anxiety and worry. Their conversations will circle endlessly around what could go wrong. They will speak of politics, the economy, climate change, or their neighbor's strange car, not as topics of discussion, but as evidence for their central thesis that threat is everywhere. They may be drawn to gossip, as it reinforces a sense of danger and allows them to feel momentarily safer by judging others. They may exhibit controlling behaviors, believing that if they can just manage every detail, they can finally feel secure. When you are listening to someone who seems trapped in a cycle of worry or control, listen deeper. Hear the frightened child at their core, the root that is broadcasting a single terrified message. "I feel so scared, and I don't know how to be safe in this world." Consider also the great story of "I am unlovable," which is also the story of "I will be abandoned." This is the wound of connection. When this is the root, the person's life becomes a complex strategy to avoid the pain of rejection. This often manifests as extreme people-pleasing, an inability to set boundaries for fear that saying no will cause them to be disliked and left. Their lives may be stories of all the things they are doing for others, the exhaustion they feel, but also the secret pride. It can also manifest as intense jealousy or possessiveness in relationships, a constant monitoring for signs of impending abandonment. Or, paradoxically, they may be the ones who push people away, who create drama to end a relationship preemptively, because being the one who leaves feels safer than being the one who is left. When you listen to stories of relationship drama, of boundaryless giving, of jealousy, listen for the root. It is the heartbreaking question of a soul convinced of its own unlovability. Do you still want me? Please, whatever you do, do not leave me. Finally, there is the common story of "I am powerless." This is the wound of agency, creating the victim narrative. For a person rooted in this story, life is something that happens to them. They have no control. Their lives are stories of blame. The boss is the reason they didn't get the promotion. Their partner is the reason they are unhappy. The government is the reason they can't get ahead. They speak often of injustice, of how others seem to have all the luck. They feel trapped by circumstances. While their complaints may seem frustrating or childish, listen with a deeper ear. To listen for the root is to hear the desperate cry of a soul that has lost its connection to its own creative power. It is the sound of profound helplessness. "I feel like a ship without a rudder, and I am terrified of where the currents are taking me." How do you learn to hear these stories? You listen for the repetition. You listen for the emotional resonance that underlies all their different anecdotes. The names and places change, but the core feeling, the fundamental story, remains the same. The practice is to listen with memory and pattern recognition. Ask yourself, what is the common emotional flavor in all of this person's stories? What is the unifying theme? You stop reacting to the individual leaves and you start perceiving the shape of the entire tree. And what do you do once you perceive the root, The core wound. You do nothing. You offer no diagnosis. To say to someone, "I see you have a deep wound of unworthiness," is a violent act of the ego, turning your perception into a weapon or a label. The only sacred response to perceiving another's core wound is a silent, radical compassion. Your heart simply opens. Their frustrating, confusing, or irritating behavior suddenly makes perfect sense in the context of their hidden story. You are no longer annoyed by the rustling leaves of their complaints. You are feeling a deep, quiet empathy for the starved and thirsty root. This compassion is a silent, healing balm. You do not need to say a word. They will feel your acceptance. They will feel your lack of judgment. And in that safe space, for a moment, the tree can finally rest. This profound act of hearing another's core story with compassion is one of the greatest gifts you can offer. But where does the ability to recognize their wound so clearly come from? How do we know the shape of their hidden pain? We recognize it because we have done the brave and difficult work of excavating our own. We see their root system because we have knelt in the dirt and tended to our own. To truly connect with the wound of another, you must first be willing to listen with the profound wisdom of your own scars. We have journeyed into the hidden world of another person, learning to hear the silent, powerful story that lives beneath their words. We have begun to perceive the shape of their core wound, the hungry root system that dictates the growth of their entire being. A natural and vital question must now arise: how? How is it possible to recognize the shape of a pain that is not our own? What gives us the authority, the perception, the clarity to sense the nature of another's private suffering? The answer is one of the most beautiful and paradoxical truths of the human spirit. This profound perceptive ability does not come from a place of perfect, unbroken wholeness. It does not belong to the enlightened master who has never been touched by sorrow, or the flawless healer who has never known a moment of despair. That is an illusion, a myth created by the ego which fears imperfection. No, the capacity to truly understand the wound of another comes from one place, and one place only: the courageous and intimate familiarity with your own. You do not listen from a place of pristine perfection. You learn to listen with your scars. In the Japanese aesthetic tradition, there is an art form known as kintsugi, which means to join with gold. When a cherished piece of pottery, a bowl, a cup, a vase is broken, it is not thrown away. This would be seen as a failure, a tragic end to a beautiful object. Instead, the art of kintsugi honors the object's history. The broken pieces are meticulously and lovingly gathered. They are carefully reassembled, and the cracks, the lines of fracture, are mended with a special lacquer that is mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. The result is breathtaking. The piece is not just repaired, it is transformed. The lines of its breakage, once a sign of its trauma, are now illuminated with precious metal. The scars have become the most beautiful and celebrated part of the object, telling a story of resilience, of history, of the beauty of imperfection. The bowl is considered more valuable and more beautiful after it has been broken and repaired. This is the most powerful metaphor for the human soul. Your life, your heart, your spirit, they have been broken. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you have lived. You have experienced heartbreak, failure, disappointment, loss, and trauma. These are your lines of fracture, the brave, difficult, and often lifelong work of healing, of therapy, of spiritual practice, of self-reflection, of forgiveness. This is your sacred art of kintsugi. The love and awareness you bring to your own pain is the liquid gold, and the scars that remain are not marks of shame or signs of your damage. They are the luminous, golden seams that prove you have lived fully, you have been broken open, and you have had the courage to put yourself back together with love. It is from these golden seams that true empathy is born. Your scars become your greatest portals of perception. They are the windows through which you can truly see another human being. Before you have faced your own wound of unworthiness, another person's bragging or deep insecurity may simply be irritating to you. It strikes you as arrogant or weak. But once you have done the courageous work of sitting with your own "I am not good enough" story, once you have felt its ache in your own bones and traced its golden scar across your own heart, something shifts. When you now hear the insecurity in another's voice, your scar begins to glow with a soft, warm light of recognition. Your judgment melts away, replaced by an instantaneous and effortless compassion. You are no longer hearing an annoying personality trait. You are hearing the familiar echo of a pain you know intimately. Your scar recognizes their wound. When you sit with someone who is drowning in a sea of loneliness, if you yourself have never truly allowed yourself to feel the depths of your own solitude, you will be tempted to throw them life preservers of advice and distraction. But if you have done your kintsugi, if you have a golden seam that was formed in the crucible of your own profound loneliness, your scar will begin to vibrate in harmony with theirs. It is a quiet, inner resonance. It is a deep, non-verbal hum that says, "I know this place. I do not know your specific story, but I know the feeling of this landscape. You are not alone in this feeling." This is true empathy. It is not about having had the exact same experience. It is about recognizing the universal human feeling that flows beneath the unique details of the story. This is why healing your own pain is the most generous thing you can do for the world. When you have not faced your own darkness, you are terrified of it in others. Another's rage is frightening because it threatens to ignite your own unacknowledged anger. Another's deep grief is overwhelming because it reminds you of the reservoir of unshed tears you carry within yourself. But when you have done your work, when you have allowed your own rage to be seen and your own grief to be felt in a safe way, you are no longer afraid. Your scars give you courage. When you listen to an angry person, you can see the pain and fear that are driving the anger, and your heart can remain open. When you sit with a grieving person, you are not desperate for them to stop crying, because their tears do not frighten you. You can simply become the sacred vessel, the sturdy mountain, because you have weathered your own storms. Your scars make you a fearless and steady companion in the dark. Here, we must make a vital and life-altering distinction. There is an infinite difference between listening from a scar and listening from an open, unhealed wound. A scar is a wound that has been repaired with golden awareness. The acute, electric pain is gone. The emotional charge has been neutralized. What remains is the wisdom, the memory, the strength, and the compassion. You can touch the scar, and it informs you, but it does not re-injure you. An open wound, however, is still bleeding. It is still charged with pain and fear. If you attempt to listen to another person from the place of your own open wound, you are not offering empathy. You are engaging in projection and transference. If your wound of abandonment is still raw and bleeding, you will hear the threat of abandonment in everyone's words, whether it is there or not. You will project your story onto their reality. If your wound of "I am not good enough" is still festering, you will interpret any feedback as a confirmation of your worthlessness. This is not clean listening. This is simply seeing your own pain reflected everywhere you look. It creates more suffering for you and for the other person. Much of the conflict in the world comes from people listening to each other through the distorted lens of their own unhealed wounds. The journey of deep listening, therefore, demands a parallel journey inward. It demands that we become spiritual artists of kintsugi. It asks us to have the courage to look at our own broken places, to hold our own pieces with love, and to begin the slow, patient work of mending them with the gold of our own loving kindness and awareness. Take a moment now, and in the quiet of your own heart, reflect on your own life. You do not need to dwell on the pain, but simply acknowledge the journey. Where are your lines of fracture? What were the moments that broke you open? And where can you see the faint, shimmering lines of gold where you have begun to heal? See that heartbreak that taught you the true meaning of compassion. See that failure that taught you humility. See that period of darkness that, in the end, showed you your own indestructible light. These are not your flaws. These are your credentials. They are your qualifications for a deeper humanity. They are your license to listen from the heart. When we learn to listen from this sacred place, from the profound wisdom of our own beautifully repaired brokenness, a startling and wondrous perception begins to dawn. We start to notice that the clear, sharp line between their wound and my scar begins to blur. The sense of a solid, separate self who is listening to another separate self begins to soften and dissolve. We look at another person, and through the luminous portals of our own scars, we no longer see a stranger. We see a reflection. Every interaction, every conversation becomes an opportunity to meet a forgotten, exiled, or unacknowledged part of our own soul. We are now ready to step into the great hall of mirrors. Through the golden seams of your own healed scars, you have learned to see the core wound in another. You have offered them the silent, healing balm of your compassionate presence. And as you sit in this shared space, a truth that has been hiding in plain sight begins to emerge. A perception so radical it can change the very foundation of your reality. The line between you and the other person, between listener and speaker, begins to dissolve. You begin to understand that you are not, and have never been, separate. You are looking in a mirror. We have been taught to believe that the world is something outside of us, a series of random events and separate people that happen to us. We see ourselves as the solid, fixed subject, and everyone else as an object to be encountered. This perception is the root of all blame, all victimhood, and all feelings of separation. But this is an illusion. The mystics and sages of all traditions have whispered a different truth down through the ages. The world is not a collection of objects, but a field of reflection. Your consciousness is not a flashlight shining out into a dark and separate world. It is a projector, and the world is the screen upon which your inner state is displayed. Every person, every situation, every interaction is a mirror, perfectly angled to show you a part of yourself that you could not otherwise see. Imagine you are born into a vast, endless, and intricate hall of mirrors. You wander through it your entire life. Each person you meet is one of these mirrors. The kind stranger who helps you pick up your fallen groceries is a mirror showing you your own innate capacity for kindness. The frustrating colleague who seems to always miss deadlines is a mirror showing you your own unacknowledged relationship with responsibility or control. The charismatic leader you admire is a mirror reflecting your own dormant potential for leadership. The person who betrays you is a mirror showing you where you have betrayed yourself. These are not always perfect, flat mirrors. Some are magnifying mirrors, taking a tiny, unrecognized trait within you and blowing it up into a caricature in the person before you, making it impossible to ignore. Some are carnival mirrors, distorting the reflection in strange and confusing ways. But none of them are empty. None of them show you something that is not, in some way, a reflection of a part of your own consciousness. To understand this is to understand that listening to another person is one of the most profound acts of self-inquiry you can ever undertake. You are listening for yourself. There are two primary types of reflection you will encounter in this great hall of mirrors. The first, and often the most challenging, is the shadow reflection. These are the mirrors that annoy you, irritate you, anger you, and trigger you. The psychological truth is that any quality in another person that generates a strong emotional charge in you is almost always a disowned part of your own self, a piece of your shadow that you have repressed and refused to acknowledge. Consider the person you find unbearably arrogant. They talk endlessly about themselves. They seem to need all the attention, and it drives you to distraction. You judge them harshly for it. Now, look in the mirror. Where is the arrogance in you? Perhaps you too have a vein of arrogance you have suppressed because you were taught it was wrong. Or, perhaps more likely, the mirror is showing you the opposite pole. Perhaps you are so terrified of taking up space, so conditioned to be small and humble, that their arrogance triggers your own deep-seated fear of being seen. Their freedom to be too much is an affront to your own self-imposed smallness. Consider the person you judge as lazy or undisciplined. They procrastinate, they seem to drift through life, and it makes you furious. Look in the mirror. Their laziness is reflecting your own inner slave driver. It is reflecting the part of you that believes your worth is conditional upon your productivity, the part that is terrified of rest, the part that whips you forward with a relentless to-do list. Their freedom to be unproductive triggers your deepest fear of being worthless. You are not angry at them. You are angry at the mirror for showing you the prison you have built for yourself. The practice of listening in the Hall of Mirrors is this. When you feel a strong, negative, emotional charge towards someone, stop. Take a breath. Instead of asking the familiar question, what is wrong with them? Ask the courageous, world-altering question, what part of myself is this person showing me? What is it in me that is reacting so fiercely? This is the beginning of radical self-responsibility. The other person is not your problem. They are your messenger. They are a guru in disguise, delivering a tailored lesson for your own soul's evolution. The second type of reflection is the golden reflection. These are the mirrors that show you qualities you deeply admire, respect, or even envy in others. These reflections reveal your own unclaimed potential, the magnificent parts of yourself that you have not yet dared to own. Perhaps you are in awe of a friend's courage. They quit their stable job to follow a passion. They speak truth to power. They travel the world alone. You look at them and think, I could never do that. I'm not brave like them. Look again. You are looking in a mirror. The reason their courage resonates with you so deeply is because you are seeing a reflection of your own dormant, unclaimed courage. Their actions are stirring a part of you that is longing to be expressed. The admiration you feel is the song of your own potential calling to you. Perhaps you deeply envy someone's artistic talent, their ability to paint or write or make music with such effortless freedom. That envy is not a sign of your own lack. It is a mirror reflecting your own creative spirit, a spirit you may have silenced long ago, telling yourself you weren't talented enough or practical enough. Their freedom is showing you the cage you have put your own creativity in. The practice here is equally transformative. When you feel a wave of intense admiration or even envy, stop. Instead of thinking, why can't I be like them? Which is a thought of lack. Ask the empowering question, this beautiful quality I see in them must also exist in me, or I would not be able to recognize it. How can I begin to own and express this part of myself, even in the smallest way? When you truly begin to listen in this way, every conversation, no matter how trivial it may seem on the surface, becomes an opportunity for self-reclamation. You are no longer just listening to your friend complain about their job. You are listening to the part of you that feels trapped or unappreciated. You are no longer just listening to a child's story of joyful discovery. You are listening to your own capacity for wonder and presence. The world ceases to be a random collection of disconnected others and becomes your own personal, interactive classroom, designed with infinite intelligence to guide you back to wholeness. When this perception truly takes root in your being, the game of blame comes to a sudden and permanent end. How can you blame a mirror for the reflection it shows? To be angry at the mirror is an act of utter futility. The only sane response is to turn your attention away from the reflection and toward the source, yourself. All of your energy, which was once wasted on judging, complaining about, and trying to change other people, now flows back to you. It becomes the fuel for your own transformation. This is the ultimate freedom. You are no longer a victim of other people's behavior. You are a devoted student of the reflections they provide. Stepping fully into this hall of mirrors is a courageous and world-altering act. It is the path to radical wholeness and an end to loneliness, for you realize you are only ever meeting yourself. Yet, it is not an easy path. It requires us to look at aspects of ourselves we have spent a lifetime denying. It demands that we take ownership of our own shadow. And because of this, a powerful internal resistance often arises. A part of us, the ego, recoils from this level of seeing and being seen. It fears the truth the mirrors reveal, for that truth will inevitably demand that we change. We must now turn and face this deep internal resistance, the force within us that would rather shatter the mirrors than dare to look at its own reflection. In the great, silent hall of mirrors, you have begun to see the world not as a collection of separate others, but as a series of reflections of yourself. You have looked into the faces of those you admire and those who challenge you, and you have started to recognize your own forgotten gold and your own disowned shadow. This is the path to wholeness, a courageous journey of self-reclamation. And yet, if you are truly honest with yourself, you will notice that something in you pulls back. When a particularly unflattering or demanding reflection appears in the mirror, a powerful force rises up from within. It is a force that wants to look away, to shatter the mirror, to deny the reflection. It is the powerful, primal, and deeply human force of resistance. We arrive now at one of the most profound paradoxes of the spiritual path. We say we long for truth. We read books, we listen to talks, we meditate, all in a quest for clarity, connection, and understanding. We crave for someone to truly see us and hear us. Yet when the moment arrives, when life or another person offers us a direct glimpse of an unvarnished truth about ourselves, a part of us recoils. We shut down. We defend. We deflect. We resist. Why? Why do we simultaneously seek the truth and run from it? To understand this, you must understand the primary directive of the ego, the gatekeeper of your personality. The ego's number one job is not your happiness. It is not your growth. It is not your liberation. Its prime directive is self-preservation. It is designed to preserve the current identity, the story of you that it has spent a lifetime constructing. Imagine this story is a room. The ego is the gatekeeper who stands guard at the door of this room. Inside the room, everything is known. The furniture might be uncomfortable. Perhaps it includes the lumpy armchair of resentment, the rickety table of self-pity, the faded rug of a victim narrative. But it is familiar. The ego knows where every piece of furniture is. It knows the view from the window. It feels a sense of control in this predictable environment, even if it is a miserable one. It prefers the tyranny of the known to the terrifying freedom of the unknown. Deep listening is an act that threatens this room. When you truly listen to another person, when you truly allow their reality to enter your own, you are allowing them to turn the key in the lock of your door. The truth they offer, the reflection they show you in the mirror, is a force that will inevitably demand that your room be rearranged. And the ego is terrified of this. It stands at the door, arms crossed, and resists. It resists because the price of truth is change, and change is a form of death for the current identity. Let us look closely at this price, at the specific reasons why the ego resists so fiercely. The first reason is that truth demands responsibility. As long as you can maintain the story that your unhappiness is someone else's fault, your partner is inconsiderate, your boss is a tyrant, the world is unfair, you get to remain the innocent victim. This position can feel strangely comfortable. It carries no burden of responsibility. But if, in a moment of deep listening, you truly hear the pain in your partner's voice and see in the mirror of their words your own selfishness or neglect, the story shatters. You can no longer comfortably wear the mantle of the victim. You have been shown your part in the dynamic, and with that seeing comes an unavoidable responsibility to change your behavior. The resistance rises up like a lawyer, shouting objections. It's far easier to believe your partner is just being too sensitive or dramatic than to accept the difficult, humbling responsibility for your own actions. Secondly, truth threatens our identity. We build our sense of self around certain concepts. I am the smart one. I am the competent one. I am a good and moral person. I am a spiritual person. These identities are the central pillars of the ego's room. Now, imagine you are the smart one, and you are listening to someone who, with quiet logic and clear evidence, presents a perspective that completely dismantles one of your long-held beliefs. If you truly let their words in, you are not just changing your mind about an issue, you are threatening the very identity of being the smart one. Who are you if you are not right? The ego panics. Resistance floods your system. It is much easier to find a flaw in their argument, to dismiss them as foolish or misinformed, than it is to face the terrifying prospect of dismantling your own sense of self. Thirdly, and most pragmatically, truth requires action and effort. Truth is not a passive concept to be admired from afar. It is an active force that demands embodiment. Let's say you have been ignoring the whispers of your own body, the somatic listening we explored earlier. You work a prestigious, high-paying job that is causing you immense stress and anxiety. Your body is screaming at you through insomnia, indigestion, and a constant feeling of tension. To truly listen to this truth, to fully acknowledge this job is destroying my health and my spirit, is to be faced with a monumental task. It might require you to quit, to face financial uncertainty, to disappoint your family, to walk away from the status you have built. This requires enormous courage and a terrifying amount of effort. The resistance offers you an easier path. It whispers, "I'm just a bit tired. I'll take a vacation next month. I'll feel better after this big project is over." It manufactures endless excuses to avoid the colossal, life-altering action that the truth is demanding. It is always easier to stay in the familiar prison than to undertake the arduous work of tunneling to freedom. Truth can also be deeply painful, and we resist pain. Imagine truth is a great, powerful river. The ego stands on the dry, barren riverbank, clinging to its familiar landscape of old beliefs, resentments, and stories. It thinks it can just dip a toe in the water of truth, to sample it without getting wet. But truth is not a puddle. It is a current. The moment you step in, it will grab you. It will begin to erode the jagged rocks of your certainties. It will wash away the dead wood of your old grievances. It will carry you to a new shore, a new way of being. This process of purification, of being tumbled in the current, can be disorienting and painful. It means feeling the grief you have suppressed, the anger you have denied, the shame you have hidden. Resistance is the desperate act of staying on the dry bank, choosing the arid but predictable pain of your own story over the cleansing, transformative, but unknown pain of the river. So how does this resistance manifest in the moment? How can you spot the gatekeeper at work within yourself as you are listening? It typically appears in one of four ways, which we can call the 4Ds. The first is denial. This is the most blunt form of resistance. The mirror shows you a reflection, and you simply say, "That's not me." Someone says, "I felt hurt when you were dismissive," and your instant, unthinking response is, "I wasn't being dismissive." It is a flat, outright rejection of the other person's reality in order to protect your own. The second is deflection. Your ego, seeing the spotlight of truth swinging towards it, quickly grabs the light and shines it back on the other person. This is the whataboutism defense. You think I was dismissive? Well, what about the time last week when you completely ignored me? The conversation is no longer about the reflection you were shown. It is now an attack on the one holding the mirror. You have successfully deflected the threat. The third is dismissal. This is a more subtle tactic. Instead of denying or deflecting the content, you invalidate the source. You're being too emotional. You're overthinking things. You're just saying that because you're stressed. By framing their perception as flawed, irrational, or overwrought, you give yourself permission to disregard it. You are not arguing with the truth. You are simply declaring the messenger unreliable. The fourth is distraction. This is the ego's escape hatch. When a conversation becomes too real, too intense, too close to a threatening truth, the ego will do anything to change the subject. It might suddenly remember an urgent email it needs to send. It might check its phone. It might crack an unrelated joke to break the tension. It might suddenly become very interested in a bird outside the window. Any of these tactics serve to break the energetic field of deep listening and allow the gatekeeper to hustle you out of the room where the truth was about to be revealed. Recognizing these patterns in yourself is not a cause for shame. It is a cause for compassionate celebration. You are beginning to see the inner workings of your own defense system. So what is the practice? You cannot fight the gatekeeper. To battle your ego is to give it exactly the conflict it thrives on. The practice is to befriend it. When you feel the resistance rising in you, the heat of defensiveness, the urge to deny, the impulse to check your phone, you pause. You take a breath, and you turn your awareness inward and speak silently to that frightened part of you. I see you. I see you are scared right now. You think this truth is going to destroy us. Thank you for working so hard to protect me. I feel your fear. But we are safe now. We are strong enough to be curious. Let's not run away. Let's just stay and listen a little longer. Let's just peek through the keyhole together. By acknowledging your resistance with this level of loving kindness, you soothe the frightened gatekeeper. You are not trying to blast down the door. You are gently, patiently earning its trust. You are letting it know that change is not death, but a necessary and beautiful part of life. This internal dance with resistance, this struggle at the doorway of personal truth, is not just a psychological drama. It is a microcosm of our relationship with existence itself. Just as we resist the challenging truths offered by the people in our lives, we often resist the quieter, more subtle truths offered by the universe. Life, like a wise and patient listener, does not scream its wisdom at us. It offers its truths in whispers, in the language of synchronicity, in the nudges of intuition, in the quiet teachings of the natural world. Our resistance to hearing that our partner is unhappy is the very same resistance that prevents us from hearing that our life is out of alignment. To hear the universe, we must first practice softening our resistance to hearing each other and hearing our own hearts. We must learn to lean in when every instinct tells us to pull away. We must prepare ourselves to listen for the whispers. We have stood at the threshold of our own resistance, that inner gatekeeper who fears the change that truth inevitably brings. We have learned to soften this resistance, not with force, but with a compassionate curiosity, choosing to lean in when every instinct screams to pull away. This practice of opening to the small personal truths offered in our daily interactions is the essential training for a much grander form of listening. We are now ready to expand our awareness beyond the human realm and attune our ear to a conversation that is happening all around us, all the time. We are going to learn to listen to the universe. To the conditioned mind, the mind of the noisy marketplace, this idea may sound like a fantasy. We have been taught to see the universe as a vast, cold and silent machine, a collection of physical laws and random events, beautiful in its complexity, but ultimately meaningless and indifferent. We see life as a series of chaotic, disconnected occurrences. A chance encounter here, a random thought there. This is the great delusion of randomness, the story told by a mind that can only perceive the surface of things. But beneath this apparent chaos, there is a hidden order, an invisible intelligence, a current of purpose that flows through all of existence. Call it spirit, consciousness, the Tao, the divine matrix. The name is unimportant. What is important is to entertain the possibility that the universe is not a silent machine, but a living, conscious entity, and it is in constant, loving communication with you. Its language, however, is not human. It does not shout, it whispers. To understand this language, let us use a metaphor. Imagine that the universe is not a chaotic jumble of information, but an infinitely vast and intelligent library. Every book, every scroll, every piece of data from the beginning of time is housed within its walls. And in this library, there is a wise and benevolent librarian. This librarian's only desire is to help you on your journey. It knows the exact story, the precise piece of wisdom, the perfect map you need for the very next step in your evolution. But this librarian is bound by a sacred rule. It cannot shout, it cannot march up to you and force the right book into your hands. That would violate your free will. Instead, it communicates through subtle placement and quiet suggestion. It operates through the language of synchronicity. Synchronicity is the term for a meaningful coincidence. It is the experience of two or more events that are not linked by a direct cause and effect relationship, yet their occurrence together feels so profoundly meaningful, so personally significant, that it strikes you with a sense of wonder and awe. It is the universe winking at you. It is the librarian quietly placing the exact book you need directly in your path. You have already experienced this, though you may have dismissed it as mere chance. Remember that time you were wrestling with a major life decision, feeling utterly lost and confused, and you turned on the radio only to have the lyrics of a song speak to your situation with such startling clarity that it gave you chills. That was the librarian's whisper. Recall the day you were thinking of an old friend, someone you hadn't spoken to in a decade, and that very afternoon, the phone rang, and it was them. Your mind calls it a coincidence. Your soul knows it as a connection, a thread in a grander pattern. That was the librarian's whisper. Think of a period of great transition in your life when you kept seeing the same number sequence over and over on clocks, on license plates, on receipts, or perhaps a specific animal, an owl, a hawk, a dragonfly kept appearing in unusual ways. You felt a strange significance in these appearances, a feeling that you were being guided or watched over. You were not going crazy. You were simply quiet enough to notice the librarian's gentle signposting. These are not commands from on high. They are confirmations. They are encouragements. They are gentle nudges. A synchronicity rarely tells you what to do. Instead, it confirms that you are on the right track. It validates a quiet intuition you already had. It offers a sense of comfort and a reminder that you are not alone, that you are part of a larger, intelligent, and benevolent unfolding. So, how do we learn to hear these whispers more clearly? The secret is that you cannot try to hear them. To actively hunt for signs and synchronicities is an act of the ego. It is the ego trying to control the magic, to force the universe to give it answers on its own terms. This only creates more noise. The path is not one of striving, but of receiving. Your task is not to hunt for the whispers, but to create the inner conditions of quiet and openness that allow the whispers to be heard. The first condition is, as always, a quiet mind. The universe whispers. If your inner marketplace is filled with the shouting of anxious vendors and the monologues of the ego, the whispers will be drowned out. You simply will not perceive them. The practice of meditation, of mindfulness, of spending time in nature's are not just spiritual hobbies. They are the essential act of turning down your own internal static so that you can hear the subtle, cosmic signal. The second condition is an open heart. You must be willing to suspend your disbelief. If your mind is rigidly locked in a cynical, materialist worldview, you will explain away every synchronicity. You will call it confirmation bias. You will call it coincidence. You will find a logical reason for everything, and in doing so, you will strip the magic and meaning from your own life. An open heart dares to wonder. It dares to ask, what if? It chooses to live in a world that is enchanted and alive with meaning. This openness is a prerequisite for perception. The librarian will not leave books for someone who refuses to believe in the library. The third condition is a clear intention. The librarian responds to your requests. When you hold a clear question in your heart, you are filling out a request slip and handing it to the universe. This is not a demanding prayer, but a gentle release of your query into the field of consciousness. You might ask, what do I need to understand about this situation? Or please show me the next step for my highest good. Once you have released the question, you must let it go. You must trust that the answer will come in its own time and in its own mysterious way. It may come tomorrow or next month. It may come as a line in a book, a dream, or a chance encounter. Your job is to ask with clarity and then wait with patient, open awareness. And the final condition, which underpins all the others, is presence. The universe whispers in the present moment. The synchronicity happens now. The meaningful song is on the radio now. The significant animal flies past your window now. If you are lost in rehearsing the past or worrying about the future, you will miss it. Your body will be present, but your consciousness will be elsewhere. To be present is to have your consciousness fully inhabiting your body, fully aware of your surroundings, right here, right now. It is the master key that unlocks the perception of life's subtle, constant dialogue with you. A gentle word of caution is needed here. As you begin to notice these whispers, the ego may try to co-opt the process. It may start to overinterpret every little thing, trying to weave a grand narrative of its own specialness. The key to distinguishing a true synchronicity from an egoic interpretation is in how it feels. A true whisper from the universe lands in your body with a feeling of resonance, a gentle electric hum, a sense of awe, a quiet inner knowing. It feels like a gift. It brings a sense of peace and rightness. An ego-driven interpretation, on the other hand, feels forced. It feels anxious, needy, and mentally complex. It is the ego trying to manufacture magic instead of simply receiving it. Trust the feeling, trust your body's resonance. As you practice living in this state of quiet, open, present awareness, you begin to realize that this communication is not a one-way street. The universe is not just whispering to you, it is actively responding to you. It is responding to the quality of your own energetic broadcast. It is responding to the depth of the listening you offer to the people, animals, and world around you. You start to see that life is not a monologue delivered by a distant God, but a living, breathing conversation governed by an immutable law of energetic reciprocity. The more deeply and compassionately you listen to the world, the more clearly and profoundly the world listens and responds to you. This is the practical, observable magic of the karma of listening. We stand now in a universe that is alive and responsive. We have learned to quiet ourselves enough to hear its whispers, to perceive the meaningful coincidences and synchronicities that thread through our lives, reminding us that we are part of a larger, intelligent conversation. This perception naturally leads to a profound question. If the universe is speaking to us, is it a monologue, or are we participants in the dialogue? The answer lies in one of the most ancient, misunderstood, and empowering laws of existence, the law of karma. When we hear the word karma, our minds often leap to a simplistic, moralistic caricature. We think of it as a cosmic system of reward and punishment, a celestial ledger where a divine scorekeeper tallies our good and bad deeds to dispense prizes or penalties in the future. But this is a childish interpretation of a law as fundamental, neutral, and impersonal as gravity. Karma is not about punishment, it is about physics. It is the law of conscious cause and effect. It simply states that every action, every word, and every thought is an energetic cause that must and will have an equal and corresponding effect. What you send out is what you receive, not as a reward or punishment, but as a simple, elegant, and inescapable reflection. The universe does not give you what you want, it gives you what you are. And here is the secret that will change how you move through the world. Listening is not a passive act of reception. It is one of the most powerful and creative energetic actions you can perform. The quality of listening you offer to the world is a potent cause you are constantly setting in motion. It is a seed you are planting, a frequency you are broadcasting, a blueprint you are sending to the universe for the reality you wish to inhabit. To be deeply heard, to be deeply understood, to be deeply respected, these are not things you can demand from the world. They are the karmic harvest of the listening you first offer to others. Let us explore this through the metaphor of a great karmic garden. Your consciousness is this vast and fertile ground. Every interaction, every conversation is an opportunity to plant a seed. When you engage with another person from a place of distraction, from the noisy marketplace of your mind, you are planting a specific kind of seed. While they are speaking, you are checking your phone, you are planning your reply, you are judging their words, you are waiting for them to finish. In these moments, you are actively broadcasting an energy of impatience, of disrespect, of self-absorption. You are planting the seeds of disconnection, and the universe, the faithful gardener, ensures that your harvest will match your planting. You will then find yourself moving through a world where you feel oddly invisible. You will feel that others are never truly present with you, that they interrupt you, that they don't seem to value what you have to say. You will experience the frustrating harvest of the distracted seeds you yourself have sown. When you listen with a mind of harsh judgment, constantly labeling another's thoughts as right or wrong, smart or foolish, you are planting the sharp, thorny seeds of criticism. The karmic result is that you will find yourself living in a world that feels incredibly judgmental. You will feel the sting of others' criticism more acutely. You will perceive judgment even where none is intended. Most powerfully, the inner critic, the vendor of judgment in your own mind, will grow louder and more tyrannical. You have nourished him with the seeds of your judgment towards others, and now his roots have taken over your inner garden, creating a suffocating prison of self-criticism. In contrast, when you practice the art of deep listening, when you become the sacred vessel, you are planting the most powerful and miraculous seeds imaginable. When you offer someone your full, undivided presence, you are planting the seed of respect. When you allow them to speak without interruption, you plant the seed of patience. When you hear their story without needing to make it about yourself, you plant the seed of generosity. When you hold space for their difficult emotions without trying to fix or dismiss them, you plant the divine seed of unconditional acceptance. The harvest from these seeds is a transformed reality. As you broadcast respect, you will begin to notice that your own words are met with a new level of attention and consideration. As you plant patience, you will find the world seems to slow down around you, affording you the space you need. As you sow the seeds of acceptance for others' messy truths, the universe will conspire to bring you compassionate witnesses in your own moments of crisis. A friend will call at the perfect time. A therapist will have an opening. A stranger will offer a surprising kindness. It is crucial to understand that the harvest does not necessarily come from the same person you offered the listening to. You do not plant a seed at the feet of one person and expect a flower to grow in that exact spot. You plant the seed in the universal garden of consciousness, and the universe, in its infinite wisdom, delivers the fruit to you from any number of unexpected sources at the perfect time. We can look at this through another lens, that of an energetic vacuum. The universe, it is said, abhors a vacuum. It will always rush to fill an empty space. When you are engaged in superficial, egoic listening, you are not empty. You are full. You are full of your own opinions, your own agenda, your own pending reply. There is no space. But when you practice deep listening, you perform a sacred act of self-emptying. You set aside your own story to create a vast, open, receptive space for the truth of another to exist. You are creating a conscious, energetic vacuum. This vacuum is incredibly potent. By creating a space for another to be fully seen and fully heard, you are creating a heardness template within your own energy field. You are shaping your own consciousness into the form of that which is heard. This shape, this template, becomes a powerful magnetic force. The law of karma, of energetic resonance, dictates that the universe must now fill this space. It must match the template you have created. Life will begin to arrange circumstances to reflect your new shape. You will begin to attract people into your life who are capable of the same deep listening you now offer. Opportunities will arise where your unique voice is specifically sought after and deeply valued. You will find that when you do choose to speak, your words carry a new weight, a new authority. This is because they no longer arise from a reactive ego, but from a deep well of silence and understanding. You have earned the right to be heard by mastering the art of hearing. This karmic law comes to its most powerful and intimate fruition in the way you listen to yourself. The way you treat your own inner world is the primary karmic seed from which your entire life grows. Do you listen to the whispers of your body? When your body tells you it is tired, do you offer it rest? Or do you override it with caffeine and willpower, planting a seed of self-violation? If so, do not be surprised when the world feels violating and demanding of your energy. Do you listen to the nudges of your intuition, that quiet inner knowing? Or do you dismiss its wisdom as illogical or inconvenient, planting a seed of self-distrust? If so, do not be surprised when your life feels confusing and you seem to make choices that lead to regret. You are ignoring your own wisest counsel. Most importantly, how do you listen to your own pain? When you make a mistake, when you feel the sting of failure or shame, what is the voice you use with yourself? Is it the harsh, critical voice of the vendor of judgment? Or is it the gentle, compassionate, and accepting presence of the sacred vessel? If you constantly plant seeds of self-judgment, you will reap a harvest of anxiety and low self-worth, and you will perceive judgment from everyone you meet. But if you can offer yourself the same deep, non-judgmental listening that you offer to others, you perform the ultimate karmic act. You create a template of self-love and self-acceptance. This is the most powerful seed in the entire garden. From this one seed, a reality of love, compassion, and belonging will grow, for you have finally become a safe harbor for yourself. This law is as certain and reliable as the rising of the sun. The quality of listening you offer to others, to the universe, and to yourself is the precise quality of the life that will be reflected back to you. It is the secret alchemy for transforming your world from the inside out. This great conversation, this karmic give and take of energy, is not, however, limited to the human sphere. There are masters of this deep listening all around us. They are teachers who embody a perfect state of being and receiving, who exist in flawless harmony with the law of cause and effect without speaking a single word. They have mastered the art of presence. To refine our own practice, we must now turn our ear away from the human world and listen to the oldest and wisest gurus on the planet. We must learn to decode the silent, profound, and healing language of nature. We have explored the intricate law of energetic reciprocity, the karma of listening, which dictates that the quality of presence we offer to the world is the very quality of the reality that is reflected back to us. This conversation between our actions and life's reactions is constant and universal. But the human world, with its egoic chatter and complex narratives, can often be a confusing and noisy classroom in which to learn this law. To truly master the art of being, of presence, of the deep listening that shapes reality, we must turn to the teachers who have perfected this art over millennia. We must leave, for a time, the conversation of humanity and seek counsel from the masters of silence. We must learn to decode the profound wordless language of nature. For the modern mind, nature is often seen as a resource to be used, a backdrop for our recreation, or a scientific puzzle to be solved. We hike through it, we extract from it, we analyze it, but we have largely forgotten how to simply be with it. We have forgotten that the natural world is not just a collection of flora and fauna, it is a living library of wisdom, a gathering of the oldest and most grounded gurus on the planet. Their teachings, however, are not delivered in a language our analytical minds can easily grasp. Nature's language is not one of saying, but of being. A human teacher uses concepts, words, and arguments to transmit knowledge. A tree does not offer you a lecture on the virtues of patience. It embodies patience in its very cells, in its slow, unhurried reach for the sun. A river does not give you a sermon on the importance of letting go. It is the relentless, physical manifestation of release. To listen to this language, we must completely shift our mode of perception. We must power down the chattering, conceptual mind that is always asking, "What does this mean? What is the lesson here?" That mind is useless in this classroom. Instead, we must power up our intuitive, somatic intelligence. We must listen with our bodies, with our breath, with the open field of our awareness. We do not learn from nature by thinking, but by attuning. We allow its wisdom to be absorbed through a process of serene osmosis. Let us walk together through this silent university and sit with some of its greatest professors. Find, in your mind's eye, a great and ancient tree. Go and sit at its base, with your back against its sturdy trunk. Now, listen. Listen not with your ears, but with your being. What is its teaching? First, feel its roots, spreading deep and wide into the dark earth beneath you. You cannot see them, but you can feel their effect, an unshakable stability. The tree is not anxious about the wind. It does not worry about the coming storm. It is held. Its roots teach the profound wisdom of grounding. They remind us that to grow tall, to reach for the heavens, we must first be deeply connected to our foundation, to the earth, to our bodies, to the present moment. So much of our human anxiety comes from being unrooted, from living entirely in our heads, like tumbleweeds of thought blown about by every passing circumstance. The tree whispers a single powerful instruction through its roots. Connect, be here, be held. Now, bring your awareness to its trunk. It is the embodiment of presence. It is utterly, uncompromisingly here. It does not wish it were a different tree in a different forest. It is not regretting its past seasons or feeling anxious about its future ones. It stands in a state of silent, dignified, and complete acceptance of what is. Through scorching summers and frozen winters, it remains. It teaches us the power of stillness, the strength that comes from simply occupying our own space, of being fully and unapologetically present in our own lives, right now. Look up at its branches. Here you see a beautiful paradox. The branches are constantly reaching, stretching, aspiring towards the light. This is the life force, the desire for growth and expansion. Yet, every autumn, these same branches demonstrate the profound wisdom of surrender. They let go of their leaves, the very things that sustained them, without a fight. They do not cling. They trust the cyclical nature of life. They know that release is necessary for rebirth. The tree, in its silent being, teaches the great spiritual balance, to reach for the light with all your might, and to let go with complete and graceful trust. Now, leave the tree and wander to the bank of a flowing river. Listen to its liquid voice, the sound of perpetual motion. The river is the master professor of non-resistance. Watch how it encounters an obstacle, great boulder in its path. The river does not stop and rage against the boulder. It does not try to smash it. That would be a waste of its energy. It simply yields. It softens, parts, and flows around the obstacle, finding the path of least resistance, and continues on its journey, its essence unchanged. It teaches that true power is not in rigidity, but in flexibility. It shows us how to navigate the obstacles in our own lives, not with brute force, but with yielding, adaptive grace. The river is also the ultimate teacher of letting go. It never holds on. A fallen leaf, a precious stone, the reflection of a passing cloud, it receives all of it, and it releases all of it. Its nature is to be empty and always moving. It is never the same river twice. It carries no memory of the miles behind it and has no anxiety about the miles ahead. It is purely present in its eternal flow. Our suffering so often comes from clinging to past hurts, to old identities, to future expectations. The river's song is a constant meditation on release. It whispers, let it pass, let it go, become new in every moment. Finally, lift your gaze to a distant mountain. The mountain is the guru of equanimity. It sits in a stillness so profound it feels eternal. For millennia, it has witnessed everything. It has held the heat of the sun, the weight of the snow, the violence of the storm, the silence of the stars. Civilizations have risen and fallen at its feet. The endless dramas of life have played out on its slopes. And through it all, its core has remained utterly unmoved, utterly silent, utterly at peace. The mountain is holding space for the entire world. To listen to the mountain is to absorb its unshakable peace. It teaches us to witness the dramas of our own lives, changing emotions, our successes, our failures with a similar, vast and quiet perspective. It shows us that there is a part of us, our deepest awareness, that is as vast and as still as the mountain, untouched by the fleeting weather of our daily experience. To receive these teachings, the practice is simple. Go into nature with no agenda. Leave your phone, your music, your ambitions behind. Your only goal is to attune. Find a spot and be still. Drop the analytical mind. Open your senses. Feel the breeze on your skin, not as wind, but as a pure sensation. Smell the damp earth, not as dirt, but as a complex living aroma. Hear the birdsong not as an object to be identified, but as pure sound vibrating in the vastness of the space around you. Do not try to get a message. Do not search for meaning. Simply merge your own quiet presence with the great, silent presence of nature. Allow its qualities, the patience of the tree, the flow of the river, the stillness of the mountain to be absorbed into your own nervous system. As you spend time in this silent communion, you will begin to notice that you are absorbing nature's most fundamental quality, a deep, unshakable stillness, a truth that simply is. The tree does not need to argue for its right to exist. The mountain does not publish a treatise defending its presence. The river does not issue a press release to justify its path. They are. Their existence is self-evident. Their truth requires no words, no arguments, no defense. By listening to the profound silence of nature, we begin to cultivate this same quality of quiet certainty within ourselves. We begin to recognize the feeling of a truth so deep and so real that it too needs no defense. We have sat with the ancient, silent gurus of the natural world. We have listened to the wordless teachings of the tree, the river, and the mountain. In their presence, we absorb a profound lesson. Their existence is their truth, and it requires no argument, A mountain does not need to defend its majesty. A river does not need to justify its flow. They simply are, and their being is self-evident. This quality of quiet, unshakable, self-evident truth is not just the domain of nature. It is the hallmark of all ultimate truth, including the deepest truths of your own heart. And learning to recognize it is one of the most vital steps in your journey as a listener. We live in a world that is obsessed with the opposite. The human realm is a noisy arena of debate, persuasion, and proof. We are conditioned to believe that a truth is only valid if it can be loudly proclaimed, fiercely defended, and logically proven to others. We build intricate arguments, we gather evidence, we engage in endless debate. But this noisy realm is not the realm of truth. It is the realm of opinion, of belief, of concept, of ego. And the things of the ego are always loud for one simple reason: they are insecure. A belief requires constant validation from the outside world to maintain its existence. It needs you to agree with it. A deeply held opinion feels threatened by a counter-argument. These are constructs of the mind, and the mind is a place of constant motion and uncertainty. To find real truth, you must leave this noisy arena and travel to a different place within yourself. Imagine your consciousness as a great spinning wheel. The outer rim of the wheel is spinning furiously. This is the realm of the mind, of the ego. It is where your thoughts, your emotions, your arguments, your anxieties, your plans, and your beliefs all live. It is a place of constant motion, of dizzying speed, of relentless noise. Most of us spend our entire lives clinging to this chaotic outer rim, being thrown about by every passing thought and emotion. We believe this motion is life, but look closer. As you move from the outer rim towards the center of the wheel, the spinning slows. The noise begins to fade, and when you arrive at the very center, the hub, there is a point that does not move at all. It is the still point around which everything else revolves. It is a place of absolute silence, absolute stillness, absolute peace. This is the realm of being. It is the seat of your soul, of pure, unwavering awareness. True, deep, undefended truth does not live on the chaotic rim of the wheel. It resides only here, in the silent, motionless center. You can learn to distinguish the insecure truth of the ego from the profound truth of the soul by their unmistakable characteristics. An egoic truth, a belief masquerading as truth, is always in need of defense. Notice its qualities. First, it is loud and insistent. It feels a compulsive need to speak, to proclaim itself, to convince you and everyone else of its rightness. It seeks converts. It wants to be a banner that is waved, a slogan that is shouted. Second, it is anxious and reactive. Because its stability depends entirely on external agreement, it becomes intensely agitated when challenged. If you question an egoic belief, the person holding it will feel personally attacked. They will become defensive, angry, or frightened. An attack on their belief is an attack on their very identity. Their truth is so fragile that it cannot withstand questioning. It must be protected by a wall of emotional reactivity. Third, it is complex and intellectual. The ego's truth often relies on elaborate logical structures, intricate theories, and mountains of external evidence. It loves footnotes, citations, and complicated jargon. It is a fortress built of concepts, and it lives entirely in the head. It is something you think about. And finally, because it is a product of the ego, it creates separation. An egoic truth is inherently divisive. It creates an us and a them. There are the people who believe correctly and those who are wrong. There are the enlightened and the ignorant. There are the saved and the damned. Its very nature is to draw lines and create division. Now, consider the qualities of a real, undefended truth, a truth that emanates from the still center of the soul. It is the polar opposite. First, It is quiet and still. It has absolutely no compulsive need to announce itself. It is perfectly content to exist in silence. It does not seek converts or validation. It is like the mountain, whose majesty is a silent fact, not a loud proclamation. When you encounter a person who is resting in a deep truth, you will feel an aura of profound peace around them, not a needy energy of persuasion. Second, it is calm and unshakable. When this truth is challenged, it does not react. It has no need to. An undefended truth does not perceive a question as an attack. It perceives it as a curiosity. It can listen to a completely opposing viewpoint without feeling the slightest bit threatened, because its certainty is entirely internal. It does not depend on your agreement. Its stability comes from its connection to the still center, not from external validation. Third, it is simple and self-evident. A soul-level truth bypasses the labyrinth of the intellect. It is not something you arrive at through a complex logical proof. It is a deep, simple, and direct knowing that lands in your being. It is its own evidence. When you recognize it, your body, your tuning fork, will resonate with it. You will feel a deep, quiet yes reverberating through your cells. It is not something you think. It is something you recognize as having been true all along. And finally, because it comes from the soul, the part of you that is connected to everything, it creates connection. An undefended truth is unifying. It fosters compassion. It recognizes the same still center in others, even if their path to it looks very different. It sees the one light shining through many different windows. It does not need to make anyone else wrong for it to be right. Its very nature is to dissolve boundaries and reveal the underlying unity of all things. The practice of finding this truth, then, is not to engage in more frantic searching on the outer rim of the wheel. It is not to read more books or win more arguments. The practice is to cultivate stillness. It is to learn to travel from the noisy rim to the silent hub of your own being. In moments of confusion or decision, when you are faced with a choice, the path is not to ask your chattering mind, what is the right answer? The mind will only offer you more noise, more pros and cons, more spinning. Instead, the practice is to get quiet, to sit, to breathe, to allow the wheel of the mind to slow down. And in that inner quiet, you can hold each option before you, and you ask a different question. You ask your soul, your body, your deep inner wisdom, which of these paths feels stillest? Which choice resonates with peace? Which direction allows my heart to feel calm and open? The truth is, the path that leads you closer to the silent center. The answer is the one that is not accompanied by anxiety or argument, but by a simple, quiet, and undefended feeling of yes. This silent, undefended truth is not an abstract principle to be found somewhere out there in the cosmos. It is the native language of your own deepest essence, the hub of the spinning wheel, the eye of the storm, the silent North Star. This still point is the very center of your own being. The journey to access this truth, therefore, is not an outward search for a guru or a doctrine. It is an inward journey of communion. We must now learn to have the most important and intimate conversation of our lives, the silent dialogue with the self. This is where we learn to finally listen not to the noisy, frantic ego on the rim, but to the still, small, and infinitely wise voice of the soul at the center of it all. We have journeyed far and wide on this path of listening. We have learned to quiet the noisy marketplace of the mind, to sit in the sacred presence of another, to hear the whispers of the universe, and to recognize the still, undefended truth that lies at the center of all things. All of these practices have been a preparation, a clearing of the ground, a tuning of the instrument for the most intimate, most vital, and most transformative act of listening you will ever undertake. The journey outward was always, in truth, a journey inward. We now arrive at the heart of it all, the sacred conversation with the self. This is the ultimate dialogue. It is not a conversation you have with your personality, your intellect, or your memories. This is a communion with the deepest, wisest, and most eternal part of your being, the silent observer, the soul, the higher self. This is not some esoteric practice reserved for monks in mountaintop monasteries. It is your birthright. It is the most natural act imaginable, for it is the act of coming home, of listening to the voice of who you truly are beneath all the layers of conditioning, fear, and identity you have accumulated in this life. All other forms of listening were simply training your ear to recognize the frequency of this one true voice. The first and most crucial step in this inner dialogue is learning to distinguish between the two primary voices that speak within you. For most of us, our inner world is dominated by one voice, the voice of the ego. Let us call this voice the storyteller. The storyteller is the incessant narrator of the movie of your life. Its characteristics are easy to spot once you know what to look for. Firstly, it is loud and verbal. It speaks in full, coherent, and often looping sentences inside your head. It is the voice that is commentating on your life right now, as you listen to these words. Secondly, the storyteller lives almost exclusively in the past and the future. It is a master of regret and resentment, constantly replaying old hurts, old conversations, old failures. I should have said that. Why did they treat me that way? It is also a master of anxiety and planning, constantly leaping into the future to worry about what might happen. What if I fail? I need to make sure I do this, then this, then this. It is almost never here, in the simple reality of the present moment. The tone of the storyteller is typically emotional and often negative. It is the voice of your inner critic, the one that judges you harshly for every mistake. It is the voice of your fear, whispering warnings and worst-case scenarios. It is the voice of your neediness, crying out for approval and validation. It is filled with the language of obligation, should, must, have to and, the language of drama. Finally, the storyteller is completely identified with your personal, finite story. It believes it is your name, your job, your body, your accomplishments, your failures. Its entire sense of self is built upon this fragile, temporary structure. It is the me you think you are. Now, there is another voice, a different presence. It is the voice of your true self, your soul. Let us call this presence the wise observer. Its qualities are the mirror opposite of the storyteller's, number Z. Firstly, the wise observer is almost always silent and non-verbal. It rarely speaks in full sentences. Its communication comes as a sudden insight that lands in your mind, fully formed. It comes as a deep, quiet feeling of knowing. It comes as a gentle nudge, an intuition. It comes as a wave of peace or a feeling of profound clarity. Its language is stillness. Secondly, the wise observer exists only in the timeless present moment. It has no past to regret and no future to fear. It is the vast, open space of now in which the storyteller's dramas unfold. Its tone is its most defining characteristic. The voice of the self is always calm, compassionate, loving, and unconditionally accepting. It is never ever panicked, critical, or judgmental. Even when delivering a difficult truth, its energy is one of profound love and support. It does not feel like an emotional reaction. It feels like deep, settled wisdom. After you make a mistake, the storyteller screams, "You idiot! You always mess everything up." The wise observer waits for the noise to subside, and in the quiet, it offers a gentle feeling sense. That was a painful lesson. You are still whole. You are still loved. Learn from this and let it go. Finally, the wise observer is not identified with your personal story. It is the timeless, spacious awareness that is witnessing the story. It is the sky that is impartially holding all the clouds of your thoughts and emotions. It is the deep, silent ocean beneath the crashing waves of your daily life. It knows that you are not your job, your body, or your history. It knows you as eternal, whole, and connected to all that is. It is the I that you truly are. The entire practice of inner listening is simply this: learning to shift your attention from the loud, frantic storyteller to the quiet, calm, wise observer. So how do we initiate this sacred dialogue? How do we create a space where the observer's whisper can be heard? One of the most powerful practices is that of journaling as inquiry. This is not a simple diary of events. It is an active conversation with your soul. The method is simple. Take a notebook. On the first page, let the storyteller run wild. Write down your problem, your fear, your confusion, your anger. Don't censor it. Let all the anxious, looping, judgmental thoughts of your ego pour onto the page until you feel empty of them. This act alone is healing, as it gets the noise out of your head. When you are done, take a deep breath. Turn to a fresh page. At the top, write a question addressed to your deepest wisdom. You might write, "My wise and loving self, what would you have me know about this situation?" Or, "Dear soul, what is the most compassionate perspective on this?" After writing the question, get out of the way. Put your analytical mind aside. Hold the pen, breathe, and just begin to write, letting the words flow without judgment. Trust what comes. You may be astonished at the calm, simple, and profoundly loving wisdom that emerges through your own hand, a voice you barely recognized as your own. This is the voice of the wise observer, finally given a channel to speak. Another practice is to use nature as your sanctuary for dialogue. Go for a walk, not with the goal of exercise, but with the goal of communion. As you walk, hold a question gently in your heart. What is the next step for me? How can I heal this relationship? Do not try to answer the question with your mind. Your only job is to walk, breathe, and be present with the trees, the sky, and the earth. Let the rhythmic motion of your body and the serene presence of nature quiet the storyteller. The answer may not come in a flash of lightning. It may come as a feeling of peace that settles over you when you think of one particular option. It may come from watching a leaf fall from a tree, which suddenly makes you understand the beauty of letting go. Nature provides the silence, and in that silence, your own inner wisdom can finally be heard. You can also practice by asking before sleep. The moments just as you are drifting off to sleep are a potent time for inner communication. The ego's defenses are down, and the veil between the conscious and subconscious mind is at its thinnest. As you lie in bed, relaxed and open, gently pose your question to your deepest self. Don't strain for an answer. Simply release the question into the quiet of your being, like dropping a pebble into a deep, still well. Please grant me clarity on this matter while I sleep. Then, let it go and drift off. The answer may come in the symbolism of a dream, or it may be there, waiting for you, as the very first clear, quiet thought that greets you upon waking. The greatest challenge in this entire process is not in hearing the voice of the self, but in learning to trust it. The storyteller, your ego, will immediately try to discredit the guidance. The self's wisdom is often simple, gentle, and based in love and trust. The ego will attack this. That's naive. That's not practical. That's too scary. That's not a real plan. The loud voice of fear will try to drown out the quiet voice of love. Your practice here is to build the muscle of trust, one small act at a time. Start with small matters. When your intuition nudges you to call a friend, do it. When your body tells you it needs rest, honor that, even if it's just for 10 minutes. When your heart tells you to offer a kindness, act on it. Every time you follow the quiet guidance, and it leads to a feeling of peace, rightness, and flow, you are building evidence. You are proving to the frightened ego that there is a wiser captain available to steer the ship. Over time, as you consistently honor this inner compass, your trust in it will grow stronger than your fear. You will learn that your soul has a far more beautiful and elegant map for your life than your anxious ego could ever conceive of. This is the ultimate act of self-sovereignty, to enthrone your own deep wisdom as the primary authority in your life. This ongoing, sacred conversation with the self is the ultimate practice. It is the journey of coming home. As you continue this inner dialogue, day by day, moment by moment, a profound shift begins to occur. The line between listening to yourself and simply being yourself starts to dissolve. The dialogue becomes less of a conversation between two separate parts of you and more of a unified, harmonious flow of being. You move from a state of seeking and listening for wisdom to a state of simply embodying it. You are graduating from listening to knowing. Through the quiet, consistent practice of the sacred inner dialogue, a new relationship with yourself has been forged. You have learned to distinguish the frantic, fearful voice of the storyteller from the calm, loving whisper of the wise observer. You have begun to trust the guidance of your own soul, to honor its wisdom in your daily life. As this sacred conversation becomes your natural state, a profound and beautiful transformation occurs. The journey changes its nature. It ceases to be a journey of listening and becomes one of knowing. All the practices we have explored until this point holding space, seeing the mirror, decoding the whispers of the universe, conversing with the self, they are like a map for a vast and wondrous territory. In the beginning, the map is essential. You must study it, consult it frequently, and consciously follow its directions. You have to think about the process. Am I holding space correctly? Is this my ego or myself that is speaking? Am I projecting my own story? This is the stage of learning, the stage of active listening. It is a necessary and noble stage of conscious effort where you are intentionally building new neural pathways, creating new habits of being. But you are not meant to spend your entire life staring at the map. The purpose of a map is to guide you as you walk the territory again and again until the landscape becomes so familiar that the map is rendered obsolete. You walk the path of compassionate listening so many times that you no longer need instructions. Your feet know the way. You can feel the turn in the path before your mind sees it. You can smell the coming rain before the clouds have fully gathered. The knowledge has moved from your head to your bones. It has left the conceptual realm and has become an embodied, cellular knowing. This is the great shift from listening to being. You have graduated from reading the map to becoming the territory. What does this state of embodied knowing feel like from the inside? How do you know you are moving from the map to the territory? The first and most noticeable quality is a sense of effortlessness. You no longer have to try to be a good listener. The scaffolding of technique falls away because the building is now complete. You no longer have to consciously remind yourself to hold space for someone. Your presence itself becomes a natural, open, and sacred space. You do not have to mentally sift through their words to find the core wound. You simply perceive it with an immediate, compassionate clarity. The practices that once required focus and intention have become as automatic and as natural as breathing. You are no longer doing listening. You are listening. From this effortlessness arises a profound sense of spontaneity and trust. The calculating mind, the part of the ego that is always a few steps ahead, rehearsing what it will say next and trying to manage the outcome of a conversation, simply relaxes. It retires. You begin to speak and act from an immediate, intuitive sense of what is required in the moment. You trust the words that arise on their own. You trust the gesture of comfort your hand makes without your conscious command. You trust the silence that falls, knowing it is perfect. This is because you are no longer acting from the fearful, controlling ego. You are acting as a direct channel for the wise observer, for the calm, still center within you. And that center is infinitely more intelligent and appropriate than the calculating mind could ever be. This leads to a collapse of time in your interactions. The ego lives in a state of psychological time, regretting the conversational missteps of the past and feeling anxious about the ones in the future. Embodied knowing exists only in the timeless now. When a conversation is over, it is truly over. There is no more mental post-mortem, no replaying the tape in your head for hours, wondering if you said the right thing. You were fully present, you responded from your center, and you let it go. It is complete. This frees up an immense amount of mental and emotional energy that was previously wasted on the futile task of managing the past and future. When these qualities of effortlessness, trust, and timelessness come together, you begin to experience life as a state of flow. Your actions and your awareness become one. There is no longer a sense of a separate you who is trying to navigate the world. There is just the unfolding of life, and you are flowing with it, as it. You are the river that meets the boulder and flows around it without thought or struggle. You are the tree that lets go of its leaves in the autumn without grief. There is a sense of grace, ease, and rightness to your movements, your words, and your relationships. You are no longer resisting life, you are dancing with it. In this state of embodied knowing, the very identity of the spiritual seeker begins to fall away. This can be a subtle and even disorienting experience. The identity of a seeker is based on a sense of lack, on the foundational belief that peace, wisdom, or enlightenment is something out there that you do not yet have. The search itself becomes a huge part of the ego's story. I am a person who is on a journey to find peace. But when you embody knowing, you have an earth-shattering realization. The peace you were seeking was the very stillness you were looking from. The wisdom you were listening for was the silent awareness that was hearing the whisper. The love you were trying to find was the loving presence that was holding the whole search. The seeker and the sought were one and the same, all along. The search is over, not because you have found a final answer, but because you have realized you are the answer. And in this realization is a profound, deep, and final rest. Now, a gentle and compassionate reality check is in order. This state of embodied knowing is not a new, static plateau of perfection. It does not mean your ego is vanquished forever and you will now float through life in a blissfully enlightened state. You are still human. The old patterns, the storyteller, the frightened gatekeeper, they still exist within your being. The difference is that your center of gravity has shifted. You no longer live in those patterns. You live in the knowing, and you observe the patterns as they arise. You will still have moments where you get triggered, where you fall back into reactive behavior, where you hear the ego's voice and momentarily believe it. But you will not stay lost for long. Before, you might have been lost in a story of anger or victimhood for days, weeks, or even years. Now, with the wisdom of the territory etched into your soul, you recognize the old, familiar landscape almost instantly. You feel the familiar contraction of the ego, and instead of fighting it or believing it, you simply smile with compassion. Ah, there you are, old friend. I know this path. It does not lead where I wish to go. And with the gentle ease of a practiced meditator returning their attention to the breath, you return your attention to the still center, to the knowing. The recovery time becomes almost instantaneous. When you arrive in this place of embodied knowing, when your very presence becomes a silent field of wisdom and peace, something extraordinary begins to radiate from you. You no longer have to try to help or heal anyone. Your very being, your state of deep, effortless listening, becomes a potent medicine for the suffering of the world. The quality of your attention, now unburdened by agenda or technique, becomes a powerful catalyst for truth and healing in others. You have, without any effort at all, developed the healer's ear. You have come home to yourself. The journey through the inner landscape has led you to the still center, to the place of embodied knowing where the frantic search for wisdom is over, because you have realized you are the wisdom you were seeking. This state of being is not an end point. It is a new beginning. It is the blossoming of a flower that has been quietly growing within you all along. And the fragrance of this flower, the natural radiance of your own integrated presence, has a profound and unintentional effect on the world around you. Without any effort, without any desire to heal or to fix, you discover that your very presence has become a medicine. You have, simply by coming home to yourself, developed the healer's ear. The healer's ear is not a technique you can learn from a book. It is not a series of clever questions to ask or a specific way to nod your head. It is a quality of being that you inhabit. It is the natural consequence of your own deep inner work. You have emptied your own cup so thoroughly that you can now hold the stories of others without spilling. You have faced your own shadows so courageously that you are no longer afraid of the darkness in another. You have soothed your own ego so patiently that you have no need to impose it upon anyone else. You do not set out to become a healer. You simply set out to become whole. And in becoming whole, you discover that healing happens spontaneously in your presence. To understand how this works, we must first ask a fundamental question. What does a wound, be it emotional, psychological, or spiritual, truly need in order to heal? A wound does not need advice. Unsolicited advice is often like rubbing salt into it, a painful message that the person should not be where they are. A wound does not need judgment. Judgment is like a dirty bandage that causes the wound to fester and become infected with shame. A wound does not need to be ignored or dismissed with cheerful platitudes. This is like leaving it to rot in a dark, damp cellar. The deepest need of any wound is remarkably simple. It needs to be seen. It needs to be acknowledged, without agenda. It needs to be gently held in a space of warm, unconditional, loving acceptance. A wound needs to be exposed to the clean air and the gentle light of pure awareness. In that safe and pristine environment, the body sand, the soul's own miraculous, innate healing intelligence can finally begin its work. With the healer's ear, your presence becomes this pristine healing environment. Imagine the other person's pain, their spoken anxiety, their confusion, their grief is like a raging fever, an inflammation in their soul. They are hot with it, consumed by it. Your presence, now grounded in the deep, cool stillness of your own center, acts as a soothing balm. You do not need to do anything. Your own calm nervous system, your steady breath, your open heart, these qualities are transmitted non-verbally. They are a cool poultice on a fevered brow. This presence does not magically cure the underlying infection, but it does something arguably more important. It reduces the painful inflammation, it calms the fever, it quiets the panic, and it provides immense relief. In this state of profound energetic safety, the person's own system can stop fighting and start mending. Or think of it this way. Imagine their wound is something they have kept hidden for years, wrapped in the tight, dark bandages of shame and denial. They believe it is ugly, monstrous, and unacceptable. Your listening is the act of creating a space so safe that they feel they can finally, gently, begin to unwrap the bandages. Your non-judgmental awareness is a special kind of lighter, soft, warm, loving light that you shine upon the exposed wound. This light has two miraculous properties. First, it is a powerful disinfectant. The pure light of unconditional acceptance is lethal to the toxic bacteria of shame. The old stories, I am broken, I am unlovable, cannot survive in this light. They wither and die. Second, this light is regenerative. Like sunlight on a plant, your loving attention stimulates the person's own dormant life force, their own inner healer, to awaken and begin the slow, miraculous process of knitting the tissues back together. You are not the surgeon performing the operation. The person's own soul is the surgeon. You are simply the clean, sterile, and loving field in which the operation can be a success. we can observe the mechanics of this healing. In your presence, because there is no hint of judgment, a person may find themselves giving voice to feelings and experiences they have never spoken aloud, perhaps not even to themselves. This act of verbalizing, of bringing the secret from the dark inner world out into the shared space between you, is a massive release of stagnant, toxic energy. It is the lancing of the wound. Furthermore, your safe container gives them implicit permission to finally feel their emotions without fear of being abandoned or shamed. A lifetime of unshed tears may begin to flow. A tremor of deeply held fear may finally be allowed to shake through their body. A wave of rage they have been suppressing for decades may be acknowledged for the first time. This emotional catharsis is not drama. It is a necessary physiological and energetic clearing. And because you, the listener, are not frightened or overwhelmed by their emotion, they learn that their feelings are not in fact catastrophic. They learn that they can survive their own emotional weather. Most profoundly, as they speak their shame-filled stories into the clear mirror of your acceptance, they begin to see themselves differently. They absorb your compassion. They begin to view their own history, their own flaws, their own pain through your loving eyes. For the first time, they might feel a flicker of compassion for themselves. You are, by your example, teaching them how to hold space for their own being. You are modeling how to be a sacred vessel for themselves. This is the greatest healing of all, the awakening of self-love. To possess the healer's ear is to be initiated into a silent, humble ministry. It is a form of service that requires no title, no credentials, no special building. Your very presence becomes your offering to the world. A brief conversation with a cashier at the grocery store, a moment of shared silence with a stranger on a park bench, a deep talk with a friend in your own living room. Every human interaction becomes a potential site of sacred service. It is the most selfless of acts, because it is truly not about you. You are not there to be perceived as wise. You are not there to be seen as helpful. You are not there to receive thanks or admiration. You are there simply to be an empty, loving space for another to meet themselves. Your ego gets absolutely nothing from the exchange, which is precisely why the energy that flows through you is so pure and so powerful. This sacred capacity to facilitate healing simply by the quality of your being is a profound service to the individuals you encounter. But its effects are not limited to the personal and the therapeutic. When this embodied, healing presence is brought into a collective, into a family, a team at work, a community, it takes on another quality entirely. It becomes a silent, stabilizing force. It becomes a source of quiet power and profound influence. The healer's ear, when placed in a group setting, evolves into the quiet wisdom of the silent leader, a person who can guide, unite, and elevate others not through loud commands or charismatic speeches, but through the deep, unshakable power of their understanding. The healer's ear, born from your own journey into wholeness, is a sacred gift you offer in your one-on-one interactions. It is a silent ministry of presence that allows individuals to find their own path to healing. But what happens when this quality of being, this embodied state of deep listening, is brought into a collective setting? When it enters a family system, a community, or a workplace, its nature evolves. The quiet power that heals an individual becomes the profound influence that guides a group. The healer's ear expands and transforms into the quiet authority of the silent leader. Our culture has sold us a loud and distorted image of leadership. We have been taught that a leader is the one who speaks first and loudest. They are the charismatic orator on the stage, the aggressive CEO who dominates the boardroom, the visionary with all the answers. This is the ego's vision of leadership. It is a leadership based on control, on being the center of attention, on the power of transmission, of sending one's own vision and voice out into the world. But this is a fragile and often ineffective form of power. True leadership, the kind that inspires loyalty, fosters collaboration, and navigates complexity with grace, is based on the opposite principle. It is based not on the power of transmission, but on the profound power of reception. The truest and most effective leader in any room is often the one who listens the most. To grasp this, imagine a great symphony orchestra. A foolish conductor might believe their job is to be the loudest person on stage. They might try to play every instrument themselves or shout instructions over the music, creating only a cacophony of noise and resentment. But a master conductor does something entirely different. They are often the most silent person in the concert hall. Their power does not come from making sound. It comes from their capacity to listen to the entire orchestra at once. They are not just hearing the violins. They are hearing the violins in relation to the cellos in relation to the woodwinds in relation to the percussion. They are listening to the harmony, the dissonance, the rhythm, the tempo, the emotional tone of the entire complex system. Their listening is holistic, deep, and all-encompassing. And because they can hear the whole, their interventions are minimal, precise, and breathtakingly effective. A small, elegant gesture of the hand, a subtle glance towards the brass section, a slight shift in posture of these tiny, quiet actions can shift the dynamics of the entire 100-person orchestra, bringing it into a state of sublime harmony and power. This is the model of the silent leader. The silent leader sits in a family meeting, a corporate brainstorming session, or a community gathering, and they listen like a master conductor. They hear the spoken words, the stated agenda. But their listening goes so much deeper. They are attuning themselves to the entire orchestra of the group. And what do they hear? They listen for the unspoken question. In any group discussion, there are the surface topics, and then there is the real, underlying, often unconscious question that is truly driving the emotional energy of the room. A team might be having a heated debate about a new software rollout. On the surface, the argument is about features and timelines. But the silent leader listens more deeply and hears the unspoken question beneath it all. With this new technology, is my job still relevant? Am I safe? A leader who tries to solve the surface argument about software will meet with endless resistance. The silent leader who gently addresses the underlying fear of irrelevance. I want to acknowledge that new changes can feel unsettling, and I want to be clear about how this new tool will support, not replace. Our team's valuable skills will instantly calm the entire room and allow for productive conversation. They sense the energetic currents. Like a skilled mariner feeling the tides, the silent leader feels the flow of energy within the group. They can sense when the collective energy is open, creative, and collaborative. They can also feel the moment it shifts, when it becomes defensive, fearful, or fragmented. They can feel the unspoken alliances between certain people and the subtle energetic walls between others. They do not need to hear a single angry word to know that tension is rising. This somatic, energetic listening allows them to feel the health of the group in real time and to intervene gently before a conflict erupts. They hear the core story of the group. Just as individuals are driven by a core narrative, so too are collectives. A family may have a core story of, "We are survivors who must always struggle," which causes them to unconsciously recreate drama and financial hardship. A company might have a core story of, "We are scrappy, anti-establishment innovators," which served them well as a startup, but now hinders their ability to create the stable structures needed for growth. The silent leader listens for this pervasive, collective myth. They understand that the group's behavior will always be constrained by its story, and they know that true, lasting change can only happen when the group is guided to consciously examine and choose to write a new, more empowering story for itself. Most importantly, the silent leader actively listens to the voice that is not speaking. In any group dynamic, there will be those who dominate the conversation and those who remain silent. The silent ones are often not silent because they have nothing to say. They may be introverted, taking time to process their thoughts. They may be intimidated by the more dominant personalities, or they may simply be wise enough to not fight for airtime. The silent leader knows that the most crucial piece of data, the most innovative idea, the most compassionate solution, often resides within the person who has not yet spoken, and so they will gently and skillfully create an opening. David, you've been listening very patiently. I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this. This simple, respectful act can change the entire outcome of a meeting. It validates the quiet members and brings their untapped wisdom into the collective field. So how does this profound perception translate into action? The actions of a silent leader are often subtle, yet immensely powerful. Firstly, they often speak last, or not at all. Unlike the ego-driven leader who needs to open every meeting and have the first word, the silent leader is comfortable in the background. They listen, they observe, they gather the maximum amount of information and feel the full spectrum of energies before they contribute. As a result, when they finally do speak, their words land with incredible weight and precision. Their contribution is not just another opinion, it is a reflection of the entire group's wisdom, synthesized and clarified. Secondly, they ask unifying questions rather than giving divisive answers. Where others might say, "Here's what we should do," the silent leader will often ask, "It seems the core tension is between our desire for speed and our need for quality. Have I understood that correctly?" Or, "What is the one outcome that everyone in this room can agree on?" These questions act like a powerful lens, focusing the scattered light of the group's competing opinions into a single, coherent beam. They untangle the noise and align the group around a shared purpose. Thirdly, with great skill and compassion, they name the unspoken reality. They are not afraid to gently speak the name of the elephant in the room. In a tense meeting, they might say, "I'm sensing a great deal of fear under the surface of this conversation. I think it would be helpful if we could just take a moment and acknowledge that this is difficult for everyone." This act of naming the hidden emotion is a massive relief for the entire group. It releases the pressure. It makes everyone feel seen and sane. It validates their experience and allows the real, authentic conversation to finally begin. It is crucial to understand that this form of leadership has nothing to do with one's formal title or position on an organizational chart. The silent leader may be the CEO, but just as often, they are the quiet project manager, the unassuming grandmother who holds the family together, or the wise friend to whom everyone turns for advice. Their authority does not come from a place of power over others. It is a power that comes from others. It is the power of trust, freely given, that they earn by consistently making people feel deeply seen, heard, respected, and safe. This is true power, the kind that cannot be given or taken away by a title, but is generated from the core of one's being. The silent leader, like the healer, does not lead by forceful doing, but by a state of profound being. They have so completely integrated the art of deep listening that their very nature guides, stabilizes, and harmonizes the world around them. They are no longer a person who needs to practice compassionate, holistic listening. It is who they are. Their presence itself has become the practice. This marks the final, subtle, and most beautiful stage of our journey, the collapsing of the final boundary, the one between the practitioner and the practice itself. It is the movement from embodying wisdom to simply being it. It is the ultimate arrival, becoming the listening. We have walked a long and winding path together, a journey that has taken us from the noisy marketplace of the mind to the silent grandeur of the mountain. We have learned to listen with our bodies, our scars, our hearts. We have sat as the healer and stood as the silent leader. Each step, each practice has been a turning of a key, an opening of a door, leading us ever deeper into the center of our own being. We now arrive at the final doorway, and we find that this door does not lead to a new room, a new skill, or a new level of attainment. It opens back out into the very world we inhabit, but seen and lived from a completely new state of consciousness. This is the final turn of the path, the movement from practicing listening to becoming the listening itself. Throughout our journey, there has been a subtle but persistent sense of a doer. There has been an I who is quieting the mind, an I who is learning to hold space, an I who is trying to distinguish the voice of the ego from the voice of the self. This sense of a separate self, a practitioner who is engaged in the practice, is the last and most subtle vestige of the ego. It is the final illusion to be lovingly released. In the ultimate stage of this journey, the doer dissolves into the doing. The listener dissolves into the listening. Think of a musician learning a complex piece of music. In the beginning, she is acutely aware of herself as the player. She thinks about her fingers on the keys. She reads the notes on the page. She consciously counts the rhythm. There is a separation between the musician, the instrument, and the music. But after thousands of hours of practice, a moment of grace occurs. In the middle of a performance, she disappears. Her sense of a separate self, the doer, dissolves. There is no longer a woman playing the piano. There is only music flowing effortlessly through her. She has become the music. This is the state we are now exploring. It is the state where you are no longer a person who is trying to be a good listener. You have so fully inhabited the qualities of presence, openness, and non-judgment that they have become your very nature. The listening switch we first set out to find is no longer a mechanism you need to consciously flip. The switch itself has been dismantled. Open, receptive awareness is now your default state. You have become the listening. What does this feel like? Imagine again the room of your consciousness. In the beginning, you were identified with the furniture. You believed you were your thoughts, your feelings, your body, your stories. Then, through mindfulness, you took a step back. You became the observer of the furniture. You created a space between you and your thoughts. And in that space, you found freedom. This was a crucial stage. But there is one final step. In the state of becoming the listening, you have a more profound realization. You are not the furniture. You are not even the observer walking around and looking at the furniture. You realize you are the room itself. You are the open, silent, aware space in which all the furniture of life appears. A thought is a piece of furniture that appears in the room of your awareness. A feeling is a piece of furniture. The sound of a bird, the words of another person, a sensation of pain, a memory from the past, all of it, every object of perception, is simply furniture appearing and disappearing within the vast, unchanging context of you. This room, your true nature, does not need to try to be accepting. It is acceptance. A room does not judge the chair or the table that is placed within it. It simply holds them. The space in a room is naturally, effortlessly accepting of everything that enters it. Likewise, you no longer have to try to be non-judgmental. Your awareness, in its pure form, is free of judgment. It simply allows all things to be as they are. You no longer have to consciously hold space for another person's pain. You are the space in which their pain can be held. This changes everything. When a person broadcasting intense anger or negativity enters your energetic field, you no longer feel the need to brace yourself, to put up a shield, or to consciously engage the practice of holding space. That person and their anger are simply a piece of furniture, a loud, vibrating, uncomfortable piece of furniture, perhaps appearing in the vast, unperturbed room of your awareness. Their energy does not stick to you, because there is no longer a solid you for it to stick to. There is only open space. The energy arises within the space of your being. It is witnessed with calm equanimity, and it passes away, leaving the space itself completely unchanged and unharmed. You become untouchable, not in a cold or distant way, but in a profoundly open and fearless one. In this state, your very perception of reality shifts. The world is no longer experienced as being out there, separate from a you who is in here. The boundary between inner and outer dissolves into a seamless whole. You begin to experience all of life as a series of vibrations arising and passing away within the boundless field of your own consciousness. The sound of a distant siren is not an external event. It is a vibration happening within you. The words of your loved one are not coming at you from across a space. They are arising right now within the space of your awareness. The joy you feel, the grief that visits, the thought about tomorrow, all are textures, all are colors, all are notes in the one great symphony that is playing out within the concert hall of your own being. The listening is no longer directional. It is no longer me listening to you. It becomes omnidirectional. You are simply open. You are listening to the totality of the present moment, all at once, without effort, because it is all happening inside of you. You are the silent witness of all of it. It is vital to understand that this is not a superhuman state you must struggle to achieve. It is a homecoming. This is the truth of who you have been all along. Beneath the layers of the personality, beneath the noise of the storyteller, beneath the identity of a separate person, this state of being, this open awareness, is your fundamental nature. It is not something you build, it is something you uncover. All the practices of listening have been a process of archaeology, of gently brushing away the dust and debris of conditioning so that the vast, silent, and already perfect reality of your own being can be revealed. This is freedom. This is the peace that passes all understanding. It is the end of the search, the end of the struggle, the end of the feeling that you are a small, fragile fragment pitted against a vast and overwhelming world. You realize you are not the wave tossed about by the winds. You are the entire deep, silent ocean. You have arrived. The long journey of becoming has led you to the simple truth of being. There are no more techniques to learn, no more levels to achieve, no more rungs on the ladder to climb. There is only the continuous deepening into this ever-present reality of your own nature. There is only resting as this open space, this silent listening, in which the entirety of life is welcomed to unfold. From this place of profound rest and final integration, we can now gently turn our gaze back over the entire path we have traveled and gather the essence of our journey into a simple, final truth to carry with us, always. We have arrived at the end of our journey through words, but at the true beginning of your journey in being. We began in the noisy marketplace of the mind, lost in the cacophony of the inner world. Together, we found the currency of silence and stood before the ego's monologue. We learned to listen with the body as our tuning fork, and to the subtle language of energy that flows beneath all things. We held space, we decoded the pauses, we heard the stories beneath the words, and through the golden seams of our own scars, we looked into the great hall of mirrors and saw ourselves. We sat with the silent mountain. We recognized the truth that needs no defense, and we began the sacred, ultimate conversation with the self. The path has led us here, to the final realization that the goal was never to become a better listener, but to simply become the listening itself. In the beginning of our time together, we spoke of a listening switch, a mechanism to be flipped to turn down the noise and turn up the soul's reception. This was a useful pointer, a place to begin, but we have discovered a deeper truth. The ultimate liberation is not found in flipping a switch on and off, for that still implies a doer, an operator who is in control. The final freedom is to dismantle the switch entirely, It is to realize that your true nature is not one of needing to be switched on. Your true nature is the open, effortless, ever-present awareness itself. It is the state of being permanently switched on. The listening switch is not a mechanism inside of you. It is a choice of being, a choice you make in this moment, and in this one, and in this one. If this entire journey, with all its paths and practices, could be distilled into a single, simple truth to carry in your heart from this day forward, it would be this: be still and listen. That is all. In those 4 words lies the entirety of the path. Be still. This is the call to quiet the inner storm, to ground yourself in the present moment, to find that motionless hub at the center of the spinning wheel of your mind. It is the homecoming to the peace of your own deep presence. And listen. From that place of stillness, simply open your senses, open your mind, open your heart. Listen to the world without judgment. Listen to the person before you without agenda. Listen to the whispers of synchronicity. And most importantly, listen for the quiet, calm, undefended voice of your own soul. Walk out into your world now, not as a speaker waiting for your turn, but as a silent, sacred space. A walking silence that invites truth to reveal itself, that allows others to feel safe, and that brings a quiet peace wherever you go. You are the open room. You are the still mountain. You are the healer's ear. You are the listening. The universe is whispering to you right now. Can you hear it?